But this time, with a twist.
Oh. Ooh.
Oh my god. The heat coming off of this thing.
Fuck. Do we even say anything else?
Nope. Oh, can you feel it? Can you feel the fire coming off of this track?
Do you feel it now, Mr. Krabs?
Oh, I'm Dustin Goes to Hollywood, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm Nathan Simmons, and if you podcast with someone, you have to live with the consequences.
Can I also, I'm going to make this just real easy for us. I'm going to call myself Boy 1.
Okay.
Nathan, we'll label you Boy 2,
okay.
JT Boy 3, and he's the exchange student. How does that feel for everybody?
I like that.
Everyone's good with that? Okay.
Can we call JT Boy Wonder?
Oh, I like that. Dude, that steak face you had, Nathan, during that song, huh?
Yeah, made me happy.
You want to hear a story about that?
Yes.
I made that beat probably over a decade ago.
No
I made
shit.
that when Hauser and I lived together,
Mm-hmm.
and we watched this movie one time, and I was like, you know what? That fucking intro would go so fucking hard over a trap beat. And so I made that, yeah.
Yeah, I had the same reaction when Josh made that trap James Bond theme to play before our 007 podcast.
Hell yeah. Oh, man. So yeah, Battle Royale, the final episode of 2024. Can you feel it?
Can you believe it?
Can you feel it in the air, man? There is a fight brewing. And there's so much to get into this thing.
Yeah.
So the reason we're doing Battle Royale, there's a number of reasons actually. We just passed, if you can believe it, the 24th anniversary of this film back on the 16th of this month.
Wow. Also, new Fortnite season.
Of course. If you listen to our Oppenheimer episode, this was the other candidate for our potential season 7 finale.
Yeah.
And if I had to make a top 20 list of my favorite films of all time,
yeah,
this would comfortably be in the top 20.
Oh, okay.
Like, no hesitation for me.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is the first time I've revisited Battle Royale since maybe high school, maybe college, but holy shit, did it hold up and actually is better than I remember. It's a different film than I remember, because the thing about Battle Royale that really hits, because I don't know if you had this experience, but Battle Royale is one of those movies that you just hear about before you see it, where everyone's like, that movie that's so fucked up that America doesn't want you to see it or whatever. And then I remember watching it and this was also when I was a big Tarantino guy, even a bigger Tarantino guy, and supposedly this is one of his favorite films of all time, and I knew that going in, and I was just really into this dark, violent excess that I saw in the movie. And watching it now, the stuff that hits the most is all the human moments. Yeah. And it's stuff that just kind of washed over me as a kid.
Yeah, no, this was one of the first, when I really learned how to use the internet to my advantage.
Sure.
I think I probably saw this thing when I was 15, 16.
Yeah.
So perfect age to relate to these characters. And it was one of those movies that, it was just underground.
Sure.
It was, you could not get a hold of it unless there was some bootleg. And then around that time...
Oh, it looks like you've been on E-Bombs World.
You had to know a way to get it was the thing. You couldn't easily access it. And I remember being blown away the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
Being why can't I get something like this from American cinema?
Right.
Why is it that only Asian cinema can do things like this, or Old Boy? How can they tap into these taboo subjects that mainstream audiences in the Americas just won't latch onto, and then it'd be the third grossing highest film of that year?
Well, and we talked about this a little bit when we talked about Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, about how, and granted that's, a South Korean filmmaker versus Japanese filmmakers, but Asian cinema has this tendency to go for it in every regard.
Yeah.
All of the emotions are huge. All of the action is huge. All of the stakes are life or death. And there's somehow this willingness to swing for the fences in literally every facet. And somehow that translates to truth and emotionality.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it works, but it does. It and especially in a film like this where all of the characters are teenagers. And when you're a teenager, everything is life or death. You know, who you're going to prom with, who likes whom, who is mad at who today, which person stole your lunch money. All of that is the most important thing that will ever happen to you. And then you drop them into a situation that literally is life or death. And it all just feels very honest, even in the most over-the-top moments.
So I think the screenwriter of this film, Kenta Fukasaku, I think he really summarized it best when he directed the sequel, which was going to be the same director as this movie, his dad, Kinji Fukasaku, but he died of prostate cancer right at the beginning of production for that movie.
Right.
He said it best when he was talking about that movie, the sequel, where he said, I have to give audiences something that, in lieu of a big budget like American movies get, I had to give them something that they want to see on a smaller scale, and that is just ideas, themes, you know, extrapolating.
That sequel is not hurting for ideas.
No, it is not. I just watched it last night, and maybe a bold statement, I think I may have more to say about that movie than I do this one, and I have a lot to say about this movie.
Man, stay tuned then.
That's this thing. I don't know if it qualifies. I do watch the special edition, which I think has a different ending, but it's so much better than people give it credit for.
That's a great call out too. Did you watch I guess the special edition of Battle Royale 1 is the more commonly available version now, right?
Yeah, it's the one that's got the added CGI blood spurts, even more gore.
Okay.
It's got the requiems at the end. The most interesting aspect to me for the special edition is the addition to the backstory of Mitsuko.
Yes.
Which really colors her character in a different light.
Which I had no idea was not in the theatrical cut. That this is the only version I've seen.
And to piggyback off what you mentioned a minute ago, Tarantino said in a 2009 interview that this was his favorite movie of the last 2 decades since he had started directing.
Yeah.
And said that if there was any movie that has been made since I started making movies that I wish I had made, it's this one.
I mean, to the point where there's cast members from this film that
I was just about to say.
Show up in his.
I was just about to say, it makes that much more sense than that Chiaki Kuriyama, who plays Go-Go in Kill Bill, plays a character in this movie. And I think even pays homage to her character in this movie with the yellow tracksuit that the bride wears in Kill Bill.
It's a little bit of her, and it's Bruce Lee's Game of Death outfit for sure.
JT, I'm assuming you've seen this before, right?
Yeah, and I was actually trying to think about when I saw it, and I definitely was still in high school.
Yeah.
When did it come to the States?
So it came to the States, I think, officially in the aughts.
Yeah.
Not the aughts, like the late aughts, early 2010s. I think somewhere around there.
I think I bought the Blu-ray in 2012, and it was like a big deal that it was on Blu-ray.
Yes. Yeah. So the reason it didn't is because Tohei, who is the producer of the film, didn't want to really play ball with American cinemas in terms of like they didn't want to deal with the rating system. They didn't want to have like a huge blowout release that would have cost them money. Like it was far less of this thing has to be too censored to play in American studios, and more so of just like a tactical reason, a financial reason of why they didn't.
On top of that, though, this is a movie about children killing each other that came out a year after the Columbine massacre.
Yes.
And like there's been multiple attempts to do an American version of this or do like a new cinema release, and it seems like every time one of those starts to get traction, there's another similar tragedy in America. I mean, those are a dime a dozen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like that's one of the reasons why this movie just never got a wide release. Is they were like, well, who do we market this to? I mean, that was a big problem in Japan too. The 15 rating, to the point where like Fukasaku was like taking out ads telling kids to sneak into the theaters to see it. He's like, you got to see this movie. It fucking rules, and it speaks to you.
There's so many different branches, so many different tabs open right now in my mind of where we could go next in this conversation. But to piggyback off what you said, I think the main reason it had problems getting distributed over here is because of Columbine. And then when the sequel started coming out, we had September 11th.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the sequel, it is very much hey, these terrorist guys aren't that bad. Which
these terrorists have a great point.
I will defend the vision of that second movie and what they are trying to do. I 100%.
Oh, I agree. It's a freedom fighter movie, for sure. But it also is about how quickly you can slide when you believe you're correct. Like, it doesn't matter how righteous your cause is. Every every revolution has a slippery slope.
And the only way is through.
Yeah,
like, there is no
yeah.
other option.
Good call,
and it's so
yeah.
funny because both these movies come out at the exact time they needed to. Because
Yeah.
this movie comes out kind of right at the end of this wave of adolescent crime, violent crimes
Sure.
in Japan after the 80s economic boom, where kids are just acting out. There are reports of teachers getting stabbed by their kids
Yeah.
and stuff like that. These kids are rebellious. We don't know what to do with them. And then the sequel comes out right as the world is taking a new look at domestic terrorism and a new light, or even foreign terrorism for that matter.
It's a more grounded response in a lot of ways
Yeah.
to like the same kind of things Akira was talking about. You know,
This is the Akira of the 2000s for sure.
absolutely.
And I think you touched on the last kind of big topic I want to approach this movie with, and the way I saw it on this rewatch, because I've seen it a lot. I watch it all the time, at least once a year.
Wow, right on.
But as I've gotten older and as I've watched it, I do see this movie a lot differently now. And because America seems hell-bent on doing absolutely nothing about gun control in this country,
Yeah.
and with so many real children dead as a result, I thought, let's at least enjoy a masterpiece fictional film on this subject, and we can really approach that topic from there. But before we get into the info dump, I did want to do a quick little, just brief description about the kind of getting to the point of production for this movie.
Yeah.
About 6,000 actors auditioned for the role in the teenager character roles. And that was whittled down to about 800 who went through 6 months of boot camp before Kinji picked only 42 of them for the final cast. And that's the class that you see at the end of in the movie.
Yeah.
When asked where, because this is based on a novel.
Pushed by Sapphire.
Yep. When Kinji Fukasaku, who had already made 59 films at this point, he was in his 70s when he makes his 60th film.
Yeah.
They asked him, why'd you want to do this movie?
Yeah.
And he said when he was a 15-year-old, he worked in a munitions factory during World War II as a kid. And he said he worked there with his other classmates. And in July of 1945, the factory was bombarded by the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
And the kids that survived this bombardment only did so by hiding under the corpses of their friends. Basically, all the kids were fighting to get underneath one another to survive the bombings. And he said that's how he learned that the Japanese government was lying about how they were faring on the world stage during World War II. Because, one of the reasons why, you go back to our Oppenheimer discussion, why World War II lasted as long as it did is because Japan really didn't want to surrender, because that's not in Eastern mindset. It's at least not in the Japanese culture. You don't surrender, basically.
Right.
And he said he developed a burning hatred, that's his words, of adults in general that he maintained for a long time afterwards.
Yeah.
So this is tapping in exactly to, he's that age when this shit happens. Now let's see a movie about these kids that are going through similar things where these adults are lying to them.
Yeah.
They live under a totalitarian government that has banned, at least in the novel, has banned everything from rock and roll music to outright rebellion. Like, they want you to just do your job and that's it.
Yeah, and it makes absolute sense that he was drawn to this material because the book is a alternate history of Japan winning World War II and then just kind of doubling down on the same mentality, right? Like, it is a government run by a cult of personality, and the the Battle Royale program is framed to the public like, well, we're just going to have the best of the best that gets drafted into our military, and we're going to be strong and we're going to reign forever.
Yeah.
When in fact, it is a way to keep people scared, keep people angry at each other.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be docile because they're staying inside because, hey, my best friend might kill me.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a perfect segue to talk about what I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar with this movie want to hear about. And that is
PUBG.
We're just going to keep tossing out Battle Royale game names throughout this episode.
Yeah.
That is, of course, we got to talk about the Hunger Games.
Oh, sure.
So for those who don't know, there was at least the early stages of a discussion about an American remake of Battle Royale as early as the 2010s. And when the Hunger Games came out, those discussions kind of stalled out. And because they said, well, if we put it out now, people that love the Hunger Games will not even know that Battle Royale came first,
right,
or that it was based on a book. Will just seem like we're copying them, etc. And Suzanne Collins, who is the author of the Hunger Games books and not the shitty senator,
yeah,
has claimed that she had never heard of Battle Royale before making the Hunger Games, before writing the books, before anything, never heard of the book, never saw the movie. And I don't believe that at all. Take what you will from it, but just read the books, or at least look at the similarities, and there is no fucking way.
I believed it when I only knew the movie. Mm-hmm. When I read the book 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, well, what the fuck?
Yes!
Like, it was the same reaction I had reading the books of magic for the first time, and just being like, oh, there's this little bespectacled boy wizard with a pet owl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fuck you, JK.
And the thing is, Battle Royale is not even original.
Sure.
I mean, I believe it maybe have been the son, Kenta Fukasaku. Maybe it was Kinji. I'm not sure. But one of them said that they were also inspired by Stephen King's The Long Walk.
Oh, absolutely.
You can even branch out even further and say, well, what about The Most Dangerous Game? This is not a new concept. I think isolating it to children specifically is, I mean, and even still,
the specifics are,
you get Lord of the Flies if you really want to get it down to it.
Right.
And then, my last little topic of discussion before we get into the info dump is, of course, this is kind of the inspiration for the video game genre known as Battle Royale video games, like Warzone and Fortnite and all this stuff. But I think a lot of people probably associate that stuff, at least younger audiences probably still associate that stuff more with the Hunger Games.
We should absolutely mention, one of the stars of this film, Beat Takeshi, was the host of Takeshi's Castle, which was eventually recreated in America as Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, one of the funniest, best TV shows of all time. And I think you're joking if you don't think that Takeshi being cast in this film isn't a bit of kind of sly meta commentary on its own of the elimination challenge.
Well, it's also like he was a huge star in Japan.
Yeah.
Like this was the way to get people into the theater to see it, or at least to get financing. It's like, we have Beat Takeshi in our fucking movie.
Well, and Beat Takeshi, a guy who is like a peer of Fukasaku. I mean, they were both just like hammering out picture after picture. Beat Takeshi way more Yakuza leaning, and has made some of my favorite films of all time. But just such a fascinating bit of connective tissue there.
And Beat Takeshi, he's got one scene in the sequel, but it's a pivotal scene that colors his character more in this movie. Yeah. And something I didn't know about him that I found out while doing research for this movie is he has a very distinct kind of twitch that he does.
Oh, it's the eye twitch, right?
Eye twitch.
Yeah.
And I found out what it is he was in a motorcycle accident. I believe it was a motorcycle accident, they said.
Oh.
And it paralyzed half of his face, which is why instead of having a traditional blink, it almost looks like a twitch, like he's winking almost.
That's fascinating. Okay.
But it plays into his character in these two movies.
Yeah.
Because you know his backstory of his daughter fucking hating him, thinking he's gross.
Yeah.
He gets, stabbed by one of the students in this movie, goes on to then lead Battle Royale, to lead the games. Like, it really colors that, even that physical twitch that he can't help colors his character so much more, I think.
I mean, he uses that to really great effect in Zatoichi as well, a movie where he's blind. Yeah. But like, you can always tell that he's just like, fuck, I gotta kill somebody, because he just sort of has this wince in his face. He's such a fascinating performer to me.
So good. And of course, MXC with Vic Romano. I can't recommend it enough.
It's all on Amazon right now, isn't it?
It was at the time. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah.
But all right, let's do our info dump about Battle Royale. That's the dump. So the year, as I mentioned, is 2000. The director is Kinji Fukasaku, from a script written by his son Kenta. And of course, I mentioned Kenta takes over directing the second movie after his dad dies from prostate cancer. The film stars, and I'm going to try, here we go. Tatsuya Fujiwara, Aki Maeda, Tarō Yamamoto, Shika Kuriyama, Shibasaki, Masanobu, Andō, and of course beat Takeshi.
Should we apologize ahead of time for
my pronunciations?
for butchering any names?
I wanted to say too, because I know we're gonna talk about specifics of the movie. I did take the liberty, fellas, of doing you a service by making a legend of the characters, how they die, who kills them.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
when do you sleep?
I live and breathe this show, man. This is my life.
You gotta post this on the Instagram.
Oh, of course.
This is wild.
Yeah, of course. And you know what the crazy part is? Some of these characters you see glimpses of in the movie, and I had to like go frame by frame, like, is that this person? But I'm pretty confident I got them all.
Rewatching it, I was kind of surprised how many of the deaths I'd forgotten. And then also, like, as I was taking notes, I was making sure to write down every character's name, and then realizing, oh, that's their only scene. They die off screen, or they die terribly. I also want to throw out, I love in the end credits the little bubbles that we have the exchange students in, like sort of just floating above.
Yeah, they're here.
In spirit.
And I gotta say too, Tatsuya Fujiwara, who plays Nanahara in this, also plays Light in the Death Note films, which I need to see because I haven't seen him. I think he's fantastic.
He's so good.
He's even better in the second film, though.
I've only seen the first Death Note film. I thought he was quite good in it, and I also liked him in the Rurouni Kenshin movies.
Yes,
too.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah. This movie had a budget of the equivalent to $4.5 million. It grossed $29 million worldwide, and it was the third highest grossing film of that year, behind Spirited Away and Pokemon Forever.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It currently has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and at the Japanese Academy Awards, it was nominated for Picture of the Year, Director of the Year, Screenplay of the Year, Actor of the Year for Tatsuya Fujiwara, Outstanding Achievement in Music, and Outstanding Achievement in Sound Recording. It did win Outstanding Achievement in Film Editing, the Popularity Award.
Hell yeah.
Like the most popular movie of the year.
That and The Flash entering the Speed Force. Yeah, those were the two big winners.
And Newcomer of the Year for both Tatsuya Fujiwara and Aki Maeda.
Yeah.
So there's no point in watching the trailer for this movie because it's in Japanese.
Sure.
And I will say there's not really a drink of the film, but I did head out to my local Asian market this morning and picked up a bottle of Good Friends peach flavored sujo.
Wow.
As well as some red bean mochi.
Hell yeah.
And I got some banana haichus, which are objectively the best haichu.
Oh, interesting. I like the melon ones a lot.
Melon one's not bad.
I love soju, and I get why people throw their lives away for it.
This is juice.
It is. Have you seen that thing where someone made a diagram where it's like for the first like 60% of it, oh, this is water, and then the last 40% is
it's like I'm gonna fight a cop right now.
I bought. So we went to go visit my sister for Thanksgiving, and I bought 2 bottles of soju. I got the lychee one, and I got the melon one. And then Ashley bought a bottle of like a pomegranate rice wine. And y'all, when I tell you that by the end of Thanksgiving dinner, I thought I could go back in time and fight the Pilgrims. Like,
you thought you could enter the Speed Force. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I felt great, and really snuck up on me.
And it's not Japanese, but it also did have Jollibee for lunch too.
Wow.
So I was really in my
you're
Asian
feeling it
today, man. I shifted into Asian mode today.
The other thing I was going to say, looking at this cast, it was amazing realizing how many of them just fully, because you a lot of the time in America, you'll see a film like this where, this was like their big thing, right? They were in a cult classic. This movie made careers. I mean, Aki Maeda, like the year after this, was in my favorite Godzilla movie. I didn't realize the training video girl was Asuka from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like, this cast is nuts. It's so incredible.
I think I read that the actor that plays Kawada went on to be a politician. Like,
yes, he did. That's right.
It's crazy. And you're right. Like, all of these characters somehow, even the ones that are only in one scene, are so distinct.
Yes.
And it's incredible that the director is able to get that much individuality out of 42 different characters.
It seems impossible, right?
And I just found out a couple of days ago, it is impossible to find that there is a almost 4-hour documentary about the making of this thing.
Right.
As far as I can tell, it was only ever released in Japan on DVD and VHS. You can't stream it anywhere. You can maybe buy it from third-party realtors or like eBay, but they all go for like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy from Amazon Japan, it's 10,000 yen, which is about $65 before you even get into shipping. But
this is us trying to get the special edition of Showgirls with the tassels.
what I'm leading here towards is sign up for our Patreon if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Silverlinings Playlist, $1 a month.
Please keep Dustin in special editions.
We can really just jump right into the movie.
Let's do it.
The thing I noticed on this rewatch is the characters themselves are, I mean, it's obvious that they are teenagers.
Yeah.
But their priorities are teenage oriented for the most part.
Yes.
I found it shocking how many times characters just stop to talk about who they're in love with, who they're crushing on.
To the point where that's a huge bit of like comfort for some of them. I mean, there's the scene where like just being next to your crush makes it okay to die. Like is such a 15-year-old emotion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for his name here. Oh, Sugimura.
Yeah.
Who sees his crush up in the rafter, screams at her, and just runs at her.
Yes.
She thinks she's being attacked, so she shoots him. And then one of my favorite lines in the movie is, "You look so cool right now."
Oh yeah.
As he's dying.
Well, and as he's dying, he tells her, "I've always been in love with you," and she's like, "You've never spoken to me," which is also such a teenager thing.
But also, you can see that she reciprocates. You can see how broken up she is. That she just killed this boy that she clearly liked, and then she's immediately gunned down.
Well, and I think it's interesting because the book, I'm going to try to get my in the book stuff out of the way early so that I'm not doing that the whole episode. In the book, a lot of the characters get more backstory to explain their behavior, right?
Yeah.
So, like, one of the big ones is that Kuriyama was in a car accident when he was younger.
Yeah.
And that makes him... That leaves him with brain damage that makes it impossible for him to feel emotion.
Oh, so he's like the Joker. Okay.
He's basically the Joker. He's Smoker too.
Basically, he doesn't do the show tunes, but you know.
But there's this really chilling moment in the book where so he's like sort of like a gang member. He's not a transfer student in the book, and he also speaks. Like he's not this silent killer, this Michael Myers in the book. And he's hanging out with his gang members during the program, and his second in command walks over a ridge and finds a bunch of corpses, and he realizes it's all our mutual friends. And as Kuriyama points his gun at him, he realizes, I've never seen this kid smile before.
Man.
And that's when Kuriyama kills him, because it's the idea of just survival is the only thing that he's like, okay, you gave me an assignment, I'm going to survive. Remorse doesn't enter the equation. It's the same thing with Mitsuko, who gets so much more backstory in the book and in the manga that is just, if you think it's dark in the film, it's horrifying. In the movie, some characters get a backstory to explain their behavior, but others don't. And I feel like it's a way for us to kind of be allowed to see the characters the way they see each other.
Yeah.
Like some of them are three-dimensional because they're popular and because people know them, and others are unknowns to be challenged or feared. Which I think is just a really fascinating difference. Also, Takeshi's character is not in the book in that form. There is a teacher who's like sort of running everything, but Kitano having this like real attachment to Noriko and like having this kind of sense of idealism in a weird warped way is not in the book. There's just some really interesting additions for the film.
I think Takeshi's character on this rewatch was so much more nuanced than I gave him credit for in my previous watches.
Yeah.
His relationship with Noriko, I always thought is perverted and sexual. Yeah. And on this watch, I got way more of a surrogate father wanting to almost adopt her into his life because of the relationship that he has with his daughter, which we get a glimpse of in this movie, and it's expounded on more in the sequel. But I found his character way more sad this time instead of like apathetic. This
is a guy, I think did you on mic recently reference Falling Down?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
This is a guy who goes into this kind of believing in the program, but I think by the end of the movie, his full plan is I'm committing suicide by student.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I said, I think there's so much more nuance
Yeah.
than I previously gave him credit for. But I want to circle back to Kuriyama because I think he is one of my favorite villains of all time.
Yeah.
Just in this movie.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't speak, but because he does so much without words. Like, the most evil thing I think I've seen in a movie in a long time, and again, this movie is almost 25 years old at this point, is when he puts the megaphone up to, I want to make sure I get all the character names right, just Yumiko. When he puts the megaphone up to Yumiko.
So everyone can hear her cry?
Everyone can hear her crying, and then point blank range just blast bullets into her stomach.
Yeah.
It is so fucking scary.
It's
and
evil.
This guy just looks evil.
Yeah. And that's before he's crying tears of blood.
Dude, oh my God. I don't know how I haven't gotten a tattoo yet of just that look where he whips around and he's on fire, covered in blood.
It's so scary.
God.
It's so, and his mouth just sort of slightly agape. Yeah.
It's like he doesn't need to express words for you to know exactly what this fucking psychopath is thinking at any given moment.
Yeah. Well, and there's this really tragic moment where, like, in the manga, he's killed by Shuya, and Kuriyama reveals that he got shot in the face earlier, and that restored like the something in his brain. And he tells Shuya as he's dying, he's like, I feel that. I can feel all of it. Like,
oh my God. I got to read this book. That sounds awesome.
It rules.
That's fucking
It's
cool.
so good.
But yeah, I love Kuriyama. I've always thought he's one of the coolest characters I've ever seen. It's so clear how much he has influenced villains in this kind of bright poppy culture of like a Tarantino film or something like that.
And if I may, like, while we're this thought occurred to me every time I think about Tarantino saying he wishes he'd made Battle Royale. As much as I enjoy Tarantino's movies, I think one of his weak points is sincerity in his films.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a world where he's able to capture the kind of emotionality that you get in this movie.
Fully. Maybe Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are like the two closest he gets to anything sincere. But
I love Jackie Brown so much.
I fully agree. That's his weak point. But it is clear how much Kuriyama has influenced characters throughout the years, how much the story has influenced other movies and directors. And yeah, I thought it so fascinating that I'm watching this time in the mindset of a teenager, or at least trying to project that, and then feeling just so much empathy for all these characters, even Mitsuko, because of her backstory. And like, you can apply that to almost every character in this movie, even the ones that don't get backstories, and just thinking like, this is something that we are actively dealing with every fucking day in this country. And I don't think people have empathy for that anymore.
Well, and not just the gun control and the school violence, but I mean, we're all competing with each other in the confines of a trap laid by older generations. You know? Yes. I can't buy a new car right now. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I think it makes sense that in this world that you wouldn't trust any adult. But it's also fascinating because, and I think they only talk about it one time, and I think it's in the sequel. There's one line that Shuya has where he says, inevitably, we all will become the adults.
Yeah. And
that, I don't think that thought comes across in this movie, because they all say, like, I don't trust these adults. And
it's a very Breakfast Club's sentiment, right?
Yeah.
Like, you grow old, when you grow up, your heart dies.
Yes. Also one of my favorite Gunship songs.
There you go.
I don't know, man. I thought there's so much more, it's so much more rich in text than I gave it credit for as a 16-year-old, because you do watch it for the sensationalism as a younger kid, because you don't get that in American movies that much. But yeah, to just know that, like, if you project these characters, or at least the thought process that these characters have onto everyday children, that is pretty close, I think, at having formerly been a teenager myself, what your life experience is like.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is the end of the world if your crush denies you.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that, you can apply that to fucking Kazushi, who's the kid that gets fucking stabbed in the dick.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, and that kid is just, and that kid maybe becomes one of the adults too soon, because his response to this is, I'm taking what I want.
Yes. That's what I mean. Like, even though I don't agree with his thought process and his mindset, you can understand that's how a kid would think.
Oh, yeah.
And to know that they are inevitably going to become the adults that theoretically will continue these Battle Royale games. It's a scary fucking world to live in.
Well, and in this game, like, loyalty is just based on things like common ground. I mean, in some cases, it's like we like the same music.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's a hope for the future, whether that's a romantic one, a friendship, trying to repair a falling out you had with a friend. You know, I mean, you have the scene in the lighthouse.
Oh my god!
Where Yuko has saw Shuya kill somebody.
Yeah.
And isn't thinking outside of the idea that, he was attacked or we're in a life or death situation. It is, I saw this bad thing happen and that has shaped my whole worldview.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is so interesting, and one of the changes from the book that I think is so smart, is the movie never really gives us much backstory on what the world is, right? Like, to the point where Shuya seems a little thrown off by the fact that there are multiple outposts of guards when they're driving the bus through.
No, that's another thing too, is I don't understand how these kids don't know what Battle Royale is.
Right. There's a lot of vagaries, which I'll be honest, like, the thing I would equate it to is kids that are slightly younger than, adults that are slightly younger than us when they were kids, not having a real concept of what September 11th was.
Yeah.
Like the idea that, like, the world has changed, but you're not quite privy to it because you don't have to be yet.
That's a very good point. I went back and forth on it of, like, how do they not even know this game exists?
Yeah.
And also, well, they're teenagers. They don't pay attention to the news.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then I go back to, you gotta at least have heard. I mean, we all knew how to draw the S without the internet. So,
right.
how the fuck?
And, you know, the movie opens with all of these reporters, like a horde of reporters seeing a child, the winner of the most recent Battle Royale, which is one of the most haunting images in film.
Yeah.
But anyways, you made a reference to old dude being like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the thing JT picked up on.
Wait, hold on. And then you brought up him crying blood.
Yeah.
And being on fire. And
just
I was
like Michael Myers.
Okay, this is just like a Halloween 2 reference, but I'll leave it alone. I'll be quiet.
I love it.
I find it harder to watch kids killing each other as I go on, knowing that this is kind of the world that we just live in now, and we just kind of all accepted it, and it has become a level of apathy that is just unparalleled. Like, I mean,
which is the only way that this movie, the plot of this movie works, right? Is that they're in a world that is apathetic and scared of, what happens if they say no. I
think there is a glimpse of hope in the cold open that we talked about, the little girl that wins the previous game. Yeah. And you see the news reporter covering it and they're saying, oh, it's a girl. Oh, she's smiling. And then when she says she's smiling, you see the news reporter kind of, there's kind of a moment where the news reporter kind of takes in of, like, this child who has seemingly killed other kids is smiling, and that's fucked up.
And what could that mean? Yes. What does that mean for us? Yeah.
It shows that not everyone in this world is insane, right? Which I appreciate it. It's a brilliant cold open. You have a female character that's won. Yes. She's a child. Yeah. She's smiling. She's covered in blood. It's brilliant.
And then you smash cut to the film's rating, which gets sliced in half because fuck you, MPA.
Absolutely. And we get Shuya's kind of backstory, and I gotta say, man, hanging yourself with your pants down is certainly a choice,
right? Because the only thing I could think was, like, well, you needed the belt, but it sure looks like you jerked off on the streamers celebrating your kids going into seventh grade.
Off and hang myself.
Might as well.
Oh man, but yeah, and then, like, to know that because we get a little bit more of this character later on, to know that his dad is, like, giving a congratulatory message to your son on he comes home and you're right there in the living room having hung yourself, and you have a message around your neck that says, yeah, go you,
go Shuya, hooray. And thank God, they're in a studio apartment, because Shuya is able to immediately turn and throw up. That imagery is just so haunting. Like, I can't.
That's the brilliance of the blocking too, is we follow the toilet paper roll to Shuya, who is then next to the toilet. So you have a clear line of sight to everything.
That is actually a note I wrote down multiple times. This is one of the best blocked movies I've seen in a long time. This again, the scene in the lighthouse, the ratcheting of tension, where there's not a ton of cuts. but it's just the girls kind of shifting in front of each other and behind each other. Who's afraid? Who's going to step up this time? And then a thing that I think kind of gets lost a little bit when you're watching this with subtitles, and especially if you're watching, I don't know if either of you have seen the dub, but it's not great.
No, I refuse.
But they start dropping the honorifics when they're talking to each other. Like, as things get worse, they're referring to each other by their given name instead of their surname, which is like a sort of a breach in social contract in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, to the point where like some characters apologize to each other for being too familiar.
Noriko does that when she refers to Nanahara Shuya.
Right, exactly. I'm sorry I called you Shuya like Nobu does, you know, like, and so that is such a subtle hint that things are unraveling when characters start referring to each other by their first names.
That lighthouse scene is, I think, maybe the thing that Tarantino lifts the most from, because that is straight up Reservoir Dogs. That is the Hateful Eight.
It's the Hateful Eight, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember. You like the Hateful Eight, right?
I remember us going into that episode because we did it before and being like, it's okay. And then on the rewatch, I'm like, oh no, this movie fucking ripped.
I think it's the best film of the second half of his career.
Probably. I don't know. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's fucking great.
See, I strongly prefer it over Hollywood, and I get it. I totally get it. But I'm way more of talky Tarantino.
Sure.
Like, up until Hateful Eight, Reservoir Dogs was my favorite Tarantino. So and I go back and forth.
I think Inglourious Basterds may be his best work.
It's great.
But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was that movie that I saw at the Cinerama Dome, which was insane because literally there is a shot of it in the movie. And I just remember being like, this movie's good. I'm fucking with it. Yeah. And then on rewatch, just being like, no, this movie fucking rules. This is a masterpiece. This is his magnum opus.
They should play it at the Dome in Las Vegas.
Yeah, or that. Since apparently the Cinerama Dome is just question mark. No one fucking knows, apparently.
Right.
But no, that lighthouse scene I think is great because I wrote this down pretty early on. But what makes this setup for this entire movie work is not only do you have a large group of people all with their own independent thoughts, morals, and plans for how to deal with this game, but they're also teenagers. And so they're emotional, they're irrational, they're hormonal, they're energetic, and it all lends itself to like an infinite possibility on how you approach this story, because we get characters that commit suicide right away. We get characters that take advantage of it and just be, acting on their most sociopathic tendencies. We have characters that want to play main character syndrome. There's just so much to do.
And there's characters who like Shuya who doesn't want to hurt anybody. I mean, when he asks, did I kill him? I mean, you were watching. Can you tell me if I killed somebody?
No, I could see why a screenwriter and a director would be so drawn to the story, because it's like, it is so palpable. It is so tasteful. Like it's a tasty script, man. You could do whatever you want with this.
Yeah. Well, and the lighthouse, and I'm sorry we're jumping all over the place, but the lighthouse scene culminates with Shuya screaming, I don't know what any of it means.
I love that. I love the card.
And that is the point. That is the point of the movie.
Yes.
It is. Why are we here? Why are you doing this to us?
I love that occasionally throughout the movie we get these cards of text that just say things like that. And it says, do you get it now, or whatever it says?
Sure.
And he goes, I don't know what any of it means.
Right.
Because I love that that's the internal dialogue just presenting itself on screen. So you don't even have to deal with that. But the lighthouse thing, I know we keep going back to it, but the lighthouse thing is the most interesting part of the movie, I think, because you have these characters that have been told you will die in 3 days unless only one of you is left. They have seen a character's neck explode from a bomb. They have seen a character get a knife thrown into their forehead.
And they're still falling into the same cliques.
This is real. Yeah. This is a real thing. And your, strategy is, we don't know what's going to happen, but maybe. Yeah. And that's a crazy thought to have in this situation, is maybe someone will rescue us. It's insane.
He wakes up and Yuki tells him, you're safe because everyone in this building is my friend.
Yes.
And it's like, no, that's not the rules. You have a guy who is, the first time Kitano gets on the radio for the big announcement, and it's just like, Wake up, sleepyheads. Here's a list of your dead friends and the order they died.
One of my favorite, there was a grindcore band I found in the MySpace days, had a song called that. Here's a list of your dead friends and the order they died.
That's insane. And then the next one is, wow, only 3 people died in the last 12 hours. You guys are slacking.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in you, yeah. But no, and I also think it's unfair to have a character named Yuki, to have another character named Yuka, Yuko, Yukiko, Yumiko.
But I do think it is very interesting that most of those girls are in the same clique.
Yeah, that makes it so hard when we get to that lighthouse scene to understand who's who.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess let's take it back. So
Okay.
We get a little bit of the backstory of like why Takeshi decides to become like the spokesperson, the leader of Battle Royale. He comes into class one day. All the kids have decided to ditch class. They wrote on the chalkboard, taking the day off because we want to. And all I could think about was that Hannibal Buress joke. Do you remember that he talks about Odd Future? There's that song that goes, kill people, burn shit, fuck school. And by the time he gets to fuck school, he's like, well, that's just truancy. What do you stand for? And the only student that comes to class ready to learn is Noriko, which of course is why he latches on to her.
Because he looks so sad.
I know.
Yeah, Nobu stabs him for fun.
Yes.
It's such a wild moment because he runs out with his little butterfly knife and just slashes him in the leg.
But Noriko keeping the knife is also incredibly interesting, which we'll come back to. Especially in special edition, it's literally the end of the movie. But yeah, no, I think, the imagery of this movie, we haven't really talked about, but the imagery is so striking because we get the kids on the bus. They go into this tunnel, and Nanahara, our protagonist, Shuya, is the only one that wakes up during this gassing. And he just sees this woman in a purple dress with a gas mask on. And he is just confounded.
Right. If you're this kid, you're like, is this a nightmare?
Yes.
Like that, it's such dream imagery.
You wake up on a bus, all your friends, all your classmates are asleep. There's a woman with a gas mask on that you don't recognize, and then she beats you with a club to make you pass out. Like, it's intense, man.
I'm also just impressed that all of these kids were able to sleep on a bus because I took a bus recently to New Orleans, and like, that's just not, I can't sleep in vehicles anymore.
I like a train. I'm an Amtrak guy. If I get on an Amtrak, I get me I was gonna say a Jack and Coke, but they typically have Pepsi. I get me a Pepsi and Coke, and I just pass out in my seat. You know what I mean? Or maybe some flavored Dr. Peppers. Who knows?
How about
how spicy I'm feeling.
There's the flavor.
I was setting you up, JT. I was hoping you'd catch on.
I really hope JT only uses hot rod cues for the rest of the season.
Man. And then, they get into this island, they get into this classroom, and they're told the game.
Well, they wake up confused, and then they in one of the bits that like is such a selective realism moment, they move the curtain that blocks the sound of helicopters.
Yep. I gotta say, man, that Takeshi comes in, and right away they're like, "Oh, teacher, what the fuck's going on?"
Yeah,
he spots Nobu, and the line "You really hurt my ass" is such a line. I was taken aback by it.
He says, I'm teaching class B again. Let's all be friends. He gives Nobu shit for dropping out until the class trip. And, we find out later Noriko asked him, please come back. Please come on the trip with us. Can you imagine, one, you weren't in school until this shit happened to you.
I know.
2, being Noriko and having the guilt of inviting him on the trip where this happens.
Yeah.
And Kitano says shit like, because of people like Kuninobu here, this country is a wreck. Which it's such an interesting performance because I can never tell if he's fully drank the Kool-Aid or if he has taken this opportunity to get revenge on these kids and progressively feels worse about it.
That's why I think his casting in particular is the smartest decision in terms of the casting.
Because he's so stoic.
The stoicism, the apathy. You could say, he's getting revenge on specifically Nobu because Nobu is the one he blows up first with the collar.
Right.
But also, at the end of the movie, he's come here with the anticipation of dying.
Yeah.
Like, he knows Kawada has sabotaged the system, which we'll get into that.
Months ago,
Yes. And then he comes here hoping Noriko is going to be the winner. He's even drawn this illustrious painting. He knows his daughter hates him.
And he takes a weird kind of quiet glee in everything, right? Like
Yeah.
he's making jokes about how we're gonna watch a video. Everyone say hello.
Oh my God. The video and him interacting with the video is the funniest shit.
It's great.
When she goes like, welcome, and he goes, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's also, I mean, it's never said, but it's implied that he's the one who killed the teacher because he chucks a knife into that one guy's eye.
Yeah.
And it's the same death blow on the teacher.
Oh, girl, it's
Fujiyoshi, I said no whispering. And
yeah, you're right.
yeah. He goes, yeah, he says, no, I said no whispering, and he chucks the knife into her eye. And we see that the teacher died the same way. And he says, we have here a failure as an adult.
That moment when they're watching the video.
Yeah.
And there's a cut to beat Takeshi. He turns and he says, I said no whispering. Chucks a throwing knife at her and it hits her in the forehead.
Yeah.
My jaw dropped the first time I saw this because it is so out of nowhere.
It's so abrupt that you barely register that she's talking.
Not even that, but you barely register that she just got hit in the head with a fucking throwing knife.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Because there's no music at that point. It hits her. The music ramps up. The editing's quick. And you're like, what just happened? And then you see her stumble with a knife in her forehead. And I remember the first time seeing it being like, it's brilliant because it wakes you up.
Yeah.
Because as the audience member, you're watching this video along with the students.
Yeah.
And then like, you're kind of like, I got it. I understand what's going to happen here. And then that wakes you up immediately.
Yes.
It's scary.
Right. Because and he even comments, he's like, oh, right. I'm not supposed to kill people, aren't I? Like I cheated.
And then the subtitle, the lower third that pops up, it says 41 to go.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but that straps me the fuck in. I'm like, all right.
It's a statement of intent.
Yeah.
And it's a striking image that the movie doesn't make a big meal out of because he goes back to the movie, to the video, this training video for everybody about the island, and everyone else is sort of just in the background of the shot, huddled into a corner with Fujiyoshi's corpse in the middle of the floor. And it is so, I mean, it's one of the first of many very hopeless images in the movie.
And I wanted to mention, because we do get him saying the name of the movie. He says Battle Royale. And I love the little horn sting that accompanies it. That's great.
Yeah.
The instructional video is great. The girl is so cute, even though she's talking about, you have collars around your neck that's going to explode. And it's so funny.
When she fake cries and does the little rubbing her eyes, and she's just like, so make sure you move, make sure there's only one of you. Because that's the other thing is like, when the timer runs out, they're just going to kill everyone. Yeah. So there has to be only one survivor or everyone loses.
Yeah, and infantilizing the person conveying information is perfect because not only does it give you this fucked up sense of how the adults view this game in general, but they think that is the best way to communicate these instructions to teenagers. Yeah. Instead of, at that point, you're a little bit too old for the cutesy, the crying eyes stuff.
And some of it's right because the kids are so blown away by this that they can't accept it. I mean, there's the bit where Motobuchi, the kid in the glasses, he's like, if I survive, can I go home? Yeah. And B. Takeshi's like, sort of just like very casually re-recites the rules they just heard. He's like, yeah, if you kill everyone, if no one else is alive, sure, you get to go home. Like, are you paying attention?
I watched a little bit, I found on YouTube. I don't know if it's from the documentary or not, but I watched a little bit of behind the scenes footage of this. Yeah. And the director is trying to elicit reactions out of these kids during this scene in particular. And he comes on set and he takes a chair and just throws it on the ground, and all the kids back away and they're like, that's how you react when you see some of this information.
Yeah. Well, and they're just, they're asking like, why were we picked? How did you pick us? Why is this happening? And Kitano is like, you were picked at random, but also he tells them it's all your fault that this is happening. Yeah. Which is, it's heartbreaking.
That is such a macro way that an adult thinks of like, you teenagers in particular, and what they hear is we as individuals, you know.
You brought this on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this whole time, Nobu is instigating and everything. And I
yeah.
do love that, like, as he's resilient and keeps trying to attack Takeshi, that he finally is just like, all right, well, then here we go. And I'll show you exactly what these collars do. It starts beeping, and they do this even better, I think, in the second movie. But when this collar starts beeping, I don't think the kids really understand what's about to happen.
But they're all scared. Like, everybody wants to help, but nobody wants him near them. Like, the fact that Shuya, like, shoves him away.
That is so... I don't know. That's the craziest part of this, is because these kids are like, I don't know what's about to happen, but I know it's nothing good.
Right.
And I can't have you near me because I don't know what the implications are. And when the camera spins around Takeshi as all these kids are freaking out and running away, it is masterful.
It is.
And to see Nobu scream out, holding his arms out, Shuya, and then his neck fucking explodes.
I think it's important that... I feel like any other movie would have made it be this thing that blows his head up.
Yes.
But this thing is it's basically a firecracker.
Yeah.
Strapped to his neck. It's enough to burst his throat.
And that blood spray is visceral.
Yeah.
The sound design, the visuals of it, like, it coats the floor in blood. And again, I still think they do this scene better in the second movie, but I'm not.
I might have to rewatch the second one. I haven't seen it. I've only seen that one once.
This one's heartbreaking. That next one is fucking devastating. How they do the neck explosion the first time. But I'm not going to keep going back to the sequel. But anyway.
And the second one, it's Slipknot, right? The man who can climb anything.
Yeah, that's what it is.
David Ayer's Battle Royale 2.
Katana is surprisingly the one that comes out on top at the end. You wouldn't believe it. But
well, her soul traps the swords of the people she kills.
Yeah. Luckily, she got her sword in her bag. Who would have thought that would have happened?
Well, the girls are allowed to keep their personal objects.
Of course. And yeah, the video keeps going, and then Takeshi says to them, "We've notified your parents. Just go for it." Could you imagine if you lived in this world? I'm assuming not everybody is on board with this shit, but they have to oblige it, to know that your kid got chosen for this.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild to think. You could make a second movie that's just a parent on the outside and their journey to try and stop this thing.
Yeah. I mean, that would be an amazing side story.
And I found it odd that no one actually owns the website br.com. I thought Baskin Robbins would have scooped that shit up.
Sure.
Pun intended. But I looked it up. No, it's not. Nobody owns it.
Wow.
So yeah, we get the name, the roll call. These characters get funneled out with this. I guess we didn't really do a good job of setting up what the movie is if you've never seen it. So if by some miracle you haven't seen or heard about Battle Royale,
70 minutes in,
it is a movie where teenagers are brought to an island.
Yeah.
A class is randomly selected amongst high school students in Japan, and they are forced to fight. Well, not even high school students, I guess, just students in general. They're forced to fight to the death until only one is alive, as a way of curtailing rebellion, but also under the guise of we're looking for the strongest, the best of the best, kind of.
Yeah.
And so this is a class that gets brought to the island, and they're forced to kill each other. And because this is their first time there, obviously, it's also our first time as the audience.
Yeah.
They have collars put around their necks that will either explode if they try to tamper with them, if they run out of time and not one single person is left. If there's more than one, everyone dies. They'll also explode if they're in a danger area, which is a random part of the island.
Every 6 hours they are, and then with the time gradually decreasing, they're told you have to move from these 4 quadrants or whatever, and then you will or you'll die.
Yeah.
Which also means none of them can get a full night's sleep during the event.
Yeah, it takes 3 days, and if no one is if there's more than one person still alive at the end of the day, everybody dies.
Right. And each of them are given a bag of supplies with a piece of bread, 2 bottles of water, and a random weapon. Some people
and a map and a flashlight.
And some people are given actual weapons.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite bits is the girl in the instruction video pulls out an axe and she goes, "Wow, somebody sure got lucky with this one."
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
100%.
And then some of them get like a pot lid. One person gets a GPS.
Yeah, Shuya gets the pot lid, which I think is funny because he's like, this is hardly a weapon, but it's pretty good.
I can't fight anyone with a pot lid, he says.
Kawada is the cool. Okay, so we'll also talk about. They also bring in 2 foreign exchange students
to mix things up.
They don't give you any backstory on them, but you can tell right away that Kuriyama is a fucking psycho.
Yes.
And Kawada is a badass. That's all you get. So because Nobu died and Fujiyoshi died.
Yeah.
As they're going out, the military guys hand each of the students a bag that has a random weapon in it and all the assortments.
Yeah.
So as they're heading out, Kawada grabs his bag. He runs out and then he stops and he comes back in.
Oh, this is good. Yeah.
This is amazing. This is right away where I knew Kawada was going to be a fucking badass. He comes back. He tosses the bag back into one of the soldiers' face and he says, "That's not my bag." And he points to another one and he says, "That's my bag." And the reason why is because he got Nobu's bag.
Right.
Because if Nobu wouldn't have been dead, he would have gotten that bag. And he says, "No, that one's mine." Which is incredible because he happens to know that that bag contains a pump action shotgun, which I think is a pretty good fucking weapon
pretty good.
on this island.
It's pretty good. I want to throw out also in the book, Noriko gets a boomerang instead of binoculars.
Yes.
And then Shuya actually does get a knife in the book.
Yeah.
But the pot lid is just such a fantastic image.
It's so funny because I wanted the pot lid to come back in a bigger way. He does use it when he is defending himself against Oki.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wanted it to come back like he had to sever someone's arm or something with it or something. But like, it's fine. That is a minor gripe I have with this movie. Shuya gets his bag. He walks outside and immediately he bumps into a girl with a crossbow bolt in her neck.
Oh my god.
This is right away.
Mm-hmm.
This is still on like the asphalt of the school. He understands how real this shit is.
She's scared and confused by it, right?
She says, "What am I supposed to do?" Yeah. And it's impressive already that she's able to still talk with a fucking crossbow bolt in her throat.
Right.
But yeah, she says, what is this? What am I supposed to do? And she dies right there. The kid that shot her runs out. He's panic and frantic, and he just, he tries to kill Shuya. He runs off with Noriko. Another kid, the kid stumbles down the hill that had the crossbow. Another kid picks it up and goes, "Is this yours?"
This is me in Battle Royale. I would fire off one arrow, then fall down a hill and get killed by my own weapon.
See, my plan was, okay, well, I got this crossbow. I'm going to sit here right at the exit as soon as people walk out.
You just plug in the whole, like Call of Duty zombie style.
Just as soon as they funnel out.
Yeah.
But yeah, this kid gets killed with the crossbow bolt by mistake. And we already have lost 2 more students right there. No, it's wild how fast this shit pops off.
It goes crazy. And then, we're still getting these really quick flashbacks during the action. Like Noriko remembering all of these girls like cornering her in a bathroom stall and bullying her. I mean, these feel like such real high school or middle school moments, right?
Dude.
Her just basically being like, I don't trust any of these bitches.
This fucking song that they have concocted.
Oh my God.
The lyrics are Noriko, shorty, ugly, die.
And die ugly comes back multiple times in the movie.
And the fact that it's graffitied on the bathroom wall too,
right?
Like it's insane. But yeah, we get that. We also get the flashback of Nobu and Shuya in his bedroom, and I know it's cramped, but that bedroom looks cozy as fuck, dude.
It does, yeah.
He's playing guitar. Nobu says, I have a crush on Noriko.
Yeah.
You can clearly tell that Shuya does too, but it's one of those teenager things where they just don't admit it.
Right.
And then, Shuya tells Noriko in the present day, "I made a promise to Nobu that I would protect you. So that is what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
And so they run off to this cove. At the same time, a group of students have taken Kuriyama to the shore.
Yeah.
And are like, "We don't know what the fuck's going on with you. I don't know what your fucking story is, but
you're definitely working with Katano because we've never seen your ass before."
Yes. And they're like, "Nobody's killing anybody," is what they say.
And he goes, "Oh yeah," and he takes their machine gun and just starts blasting.
God, and I should mention, he doesn't say a fucking word. He spits some gum into a guy's face.
It's really good.
In that moment, takes the Uzi and just sprays them all down. It's insane.
Kuriyama plays this game the way I play Fallout, which is I'm stealing everything from everybody. He takes a machine gun, he grabs some grenades. He seems to say fuck it to the nunchucks.
Yeah. No, I love that he's looting everybody he comes across.
Yeah.
He's going to be over encumbered in no time. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Have you guys ever tried to use nunchucks?
I imagine I would smack myself right in the fucking teeth.
Correct.
So no, I have.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we also get Takeshi eating the cookies that Noriko made for Shuya.
More like eat Takeshi.
Ooh, look at that.
Hey.
Look at
that. Hell yeah.
Well, to piggyback off that conversation we had about lighting and Black Christmas, this scene that's on the shoreline, on the rocks, at night, I can still see everyone and everything that's happening. And I think they make it clear like the moon is the only light source.
Yes.
And yet it doesn't feel underlit. It doesn't feel overlit. And I feel like this is a lost art when it comes to lighting.
It is. And I will say, thank God for the Blu-ray, because I do recall this scene being really tough and on the like that old VHS or however I watched it originally. Like,
that leak that went on the websites back in the aughts. Yeah.
I feel that reminds me. I think I mean, it's been long enough that I think where it's fine. I think I torrented this around the same time that I downloaded The Room for the first time.
Of course.
Like, what an origin story.
And then we get Ogawa, who convinces Yamamoto to commit suicide with her. Oof, that's tough.
It's awful because they're just like, maybe someone will save us, and they change their minds about that quickly. Like, I don't even want to wait around for it.
Well, he says maybe someone will save us, and she goes, no.
And meanwhile, they're hearing all the gunshots that we were just talking about ringing out.
And then we get our first introduction to Mitsuko. And man, if it wasn't painfully obvious that Tarantino was so inspired by this movie,
I know.
The shot of her smiling with a flashlight under her chin
is terrifying.
It is, but it's also that is like he saw that and a light bulb went off in his head. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
That shit is haunting. And I remember seeing this movie for the first time, like I said, at like age 16. And I remember having a huge crush on this actress.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And like, I don't, the fact that she was a little bit crazy also really helped itself out.
Classic.
I had a weird childhood between this and Batman Returns, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And speaking of Batman Returns, I swear to God that the taser that Megumi has
is the same taser that Michelle Pfeiffer has.
I swear to God, it's the same taser.
So, yeah, she's sitting there. Megumi's sitting in there with her taser, and she's just looking through photos and trying to like keep her spirits up.
Yeah.
And when Mitsuko shows up, she's like, hey, I hate all your friends, but I always thought you were okay.
Yep.
And Mitsuko is the cut to the two kids who hung themselves next door, and Mitsuko's announcement that that's not my scene.
Yeah.
Like, tells you so much about her headspace and how she's just like, fuck it, I don't care what happens, I'm going to live. They had this little giggle where she jokes about killing someone with a taser, and then just, she just goes after her. I mean, it's the first of many terrifying kills.
When she makes that like plea of like, okay, you can have your taser back, and then as the girl reaches for it, she grabs her arm and chases her under the table. Oh my God, that shit is scary.
It is.
But I think in the special edition, you only get one glimpse of her really beforehand at the basketball game,
right,
which is expounded upon more in the special edition.
Oh my God, there's a shot of her. I mean, it's in one of the requiems, but it's the shot of her at the basketball game just obliterates me. It breaks my heart.
Well, in the special edition, I think at the beginning of the movie when they show it, they show one shot of her sitting by herself.
Yes.
Then I also love the fact that the next morning, when they're announcing all the kids that are dead, she is so out of the realm of what the rest of these kids are living in. And the fact that she's washed her hair, she's
doing her makeup,
she's changed it to like casual clothes. You know what I mean? It's great.
Some of them are still going about their daily routines, and others are freaking out but have zero time to grieve because the danger zones are already being read off. Yeah,
I mean, that's Nanahara and Noriko. They're still in their blood-soaked clothes from the night before.
Right.
And I do like that, they run into to Oki, and he's trying to kill them with the axe. They stumble down a hill. The axe gets dislodged in his head.
Yeah.
And Yuko sees this and runs off, thinking that Nanahara killed this guy. And the guilt that he immediately feels of like grabbing Noriko by the shoulders and shaking her. He's like, you saw it. Did I actually kill him?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it was in defense. It's fine.
Right. Be honest. You were watching. And I do. Man, so this kid, he jumps out of the bushes. He's got grass like still stuck in his hair, like twigs in his hair. And then when he falls on his own axe and gets it stuck in his head, he like stumbles forward and he says, I'm sorry, I'm fine, I'm fine. Like he's just confused and then keels over. It doesn't feel like a victory for Shuya, like at all.
And then if I ever get murked by a nerd spouting mathematical equations at me, I'm gonna be livid.
That was wild. Yeah.
This guy, Motobuchi, who we talked about earlier, comes around from a corner with a revolver and is like x squared equals b2 or whatever. And I'm like, what?
Right.
He says if I win this game, I'll probably get into a good grad school.
Yeah.
And then Kawada shows up and blasts him with this shotgun. And I mean, it's never a smart move to bum rush a guy with a shotgun in any fucking situation. That's certainly a choice.
Yeah.
But I do like that Kawada sees Nanahara and Noriko, sees that they don't have weapons, and is like, I'll let you guys live.
Right.
And that's a badass, man. I love Kawada.
The little smile that he gives them when he finds out that all they have is binoculars
and a pot lid.
And a pot lid. He just kind of smirks and he's like, all right, well, you're all right. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And then that's when we get, Yuka and Yuko, which I found confusing, but they're on the megaphone. They're like, look, come to this area. We don't have to fight. We'll figure this thing out together.
Yeah.
And Kuriyama shows up and guns these girls the fuck down.
Yeah.
And again, you don't even get a noise out of Kuriyama except right now where he blows into the megaphone to make sure it's on.
Yeah,
and that's all you get from him.
He tests it so that then he can scare everyone.
Oh, he puts that megaphone up to, I think it's Yuko. And yeah, you can hear her crying and wailing because she's been shot over the megaphone. And then point blank range, he just puts the gun barrel in her stomach and shoots the fuck out of her.
And again, this really hammers home that these are kids, because the plan here is that Kusaka announces, Yukiko's always had a crush on you, like you should come over here and hang out with us. And it's like that, it's such a childlike way of trying to handle conflict.
I know. And yeah, we get the next announcement, and it's got to be insane to hear over the intercom, just a list of your friends, your classmates that have been murdered.
And he's basically telling them, like, guys, like, you shouldn't give peace a chance.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way out of this. Like, here, some of you are trying to work together. That's real cute, but like, those aren't the rules.
He was like, it's a good effort,
right.
But ultimately. And then we get Mitsuko, who's walking through this hut, and Hirano is there, and she starts monologuing, and I'm like, dude, just shoot her. You gotta just shoot her. She killed these girls. And she starts doing tampon investigation.
Yeah, she's like someone left a tampon in the toilet, and it wasn't the person you killed. And then I found these bodies, and all this stuff.
I checked,
and right, she like checked to see if her friend was on her period before she was killed.
I know. I checked.
Oh, Jesus.
Online.
She accuses her of accuses Mitsuko of stealing her boyfriend, which is like a reference to the book where Mitsuko was she was an outsider because people treated her like she was loose because of all the abuse she'd endured. She figured out that like using her sexuality was a way to get people to do what she wanted. It's this really like heartbreaking and very dark aspect of the character that's only kind of hinted at in the movie.
Yeah.
But it leads to her just tasering and gunning this girl down.
And I think maybe it's just my interpretation, but I don't see Mitsuko as that type. I think that she's just one of those. I mean, that's what teenagers do. They spread rumors about things and people that aren't true.
Absolutely.
Because Mitsuko doesn't seem like that type, especially when you see her backstory.
Well, that and the fact that she doesn't, in the book, she tries to do that to get out, like to manipulate people into giving her resources and weapons. And that's not her tactic in the movie. The movie is, I'm killing you. Like, I'm not even giving you a chance to speak to me.
I know, and I love the manipulation that she uses. Like, she uses her sexuality to kill the two guys at the pool.
Oh, right.
Hatagami and I can't remember the other kid's name. I'm looking for it now.
That's one of the craziest shots in the movie, is them just covered in blood and
I think it's Takaguchi. I think it's the other one.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, I like that we get then the first of many of Kawada's many Joker-esque backstories because for some reason Noriko has fallen ill. I think she maybe was grazed by a bullet or something. But they find a clinic, which I think is funny, on this island. This island's got everything, man. It's got a food, it's got a generator, it's got stuff to make a bomb. Like, what the fuck was going on this island before?
Yeah, it has a laptop that can hack into their systems.
I think that was actually Mamora's own personal laptop, because I said you could keep your own personal stuff, but you're right. There is a network that he's able to hack into.
They come back and find, so Noriko collapses from fever because she's been winged by a bullet. She makes a line. She makes some comment about being jealous of Yukiko because she was able to get Shuya's attention. Yeah, and they find Kawada again after tripping his security system, and I love. He has not learned their names, but when he sees them, he goes, pot lid and binoculars. What do you want?
And we get one of his mini Joker-esque backstories because he says, he starts to heal Noriko with some, medicine he finds. He goes, yeah, of course, my dad was a doctor.
Yeah, which is the case in the book.
Okay, and then he makes them a meal, and she's like, oh my God, this is actually good. He goes, of course, my dad was a chef.
And towards the end of the movie, when they're escaping, they're like, are you sure you know how to, like, drive this boat? And he goes, yeah, my dad's a fisherman.
I love it. I mean,
it's good.
Do you think Nolan was inspired by this? Because I had to imagine he's seen this movie.
Sure.
It's funny.
My father was a teacher at Battle Royale.
He was a fisherman that rowed a boat all the time. And this is where Miramura learns that there are microphones on the necklace, because of course there would be.
Yes.
And he says his uncle. Oh, go ahead.
I love that Mimura is a basketball player and master hacker.
And he's those two things. The Venn diagram is so close that he has a hacker cartoon of himself playing basketball.
The third man. Yeah.
He's a big fan of 40s or 30s film noir. I can't remember what year that movie came out.
Right.
But no, I do love this so much. And we get introduced to Chigusa, who is, of course, Gogo from Kill Bill, because
she's daydreaming about Sugimura.
Yes. She likes to work out. She likes to run, and she has this memory of her running down this trail and Sugimura following her. Yeah, and she's giggling and laughing all the time. And then it cuts to she's actually doing that on the island, and she touches the collar, the necklace, to remember that it's on.
Oh, when she's pulled out of that daydream, it's
upsetting.
It's so elegantly done. Yeah. Like you're sort of like, oh, we're still in the memory until she touches the collar. It's so good.
Yeah, and then Kazushi shows up. And says, oh, you have a crush on him, right? It's fine. He's like, we're all gonna die. Don't you want? You're a virgin. Don't you want to at least do it once?
The line she has, come at me and every inch of me will resist you, is such a fucking baller response to this kid.
There's that, but also when he says, don't you want to at least do it one time? And she drops her bags and goes, did I just hear this right? Did this idiot just fucking say this to me? Yeah. And then he says, I'm playing this game for real. I could force myself on you. And she responds with, try it then. Yeah. And boy, hell yeah, girl.
And he gives up pretty quick. So then she chases him down and stabs him in the dick until he dies.
Hey, please!
Which is the scene that my fiance came in for. And she's like, what is this movie?
JT, I might have to ban you from Hot Rod Drops. I might have to.
If you didn't want me to use them, you wouldn't have put them on.
That's fair. But yeah, the scar across the cheek because he shoots her with the crossbow.
Oh,
and like that look where she realizes that, and she says, you scarred my face. I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near this woman. This woman's about to go fucking feral on this dude. And she does.
Rightfully so.
I love it. And then, Mitsuko shows up, shoots her. Yeah. She runs off to this dam. Right. And then as she collapses there, Sugimura does show up. Yeah. And reveals that his device, his weapon is a tracking device.
Right.
To me, best weapon in the fucking game. Like, best thing you could get.
1000%. I'm waiting every one of those bitches out. And he tells her, she's bleeding out. She tells him that she's got a crush on him. And he's like, look, I'm not in love with you. I'm in love with someone else, which I do kind of appreciate the honesty. But then she says, can you stay with me? It won't be long, which breaks my heart. And he tells her that he tried to wait for her when they were first let out onto the island. And I go back and forth on whether or not that's true.
Yeah.
They seem like they're really close friends, but it's interesting, right?
Oh, I love that she says, do you have a crush on anyone? He says, yes. And she says, but not me, right? And he goes, no.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get one of those inner monologue cards pops up that says, God, can I say one more thing?
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, that's the one that gets me.
And then that's when she says, will you just stay with me? It won't be long. And man, she does so much because this is her only real scene.
Yeah.
Other than she has a line earlier on, but man, that's heartbreaking.
And this is when she says, you look really cool.
You look really cool, which he then repeats to his crush later on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And the tension, the heartbreak of this is sort of broken up by Takeshi making the aforementioned announcement of, it's 6 a.m. Here's the list of goners. Only 3. You're slacking.
Yep.
So now I'm going to change the danger zones every hour.
Yeah. And then this is where we get the reveal of who Kawada is.
Yeah.
And that is that he not only survived a previous Battle Royale, but that he volunteered for this one to try and learn what his girlfriend's smile meant.
Oof.
So in the last Battle Royale that he was in, the surviving members were he and his girlfriend.
Yes.
Keiko.
Yeah.
And as they collars started to beep because only one could survive, they embrace. She shoots him in the stomach.
Right.
He falls down and as a reflex shoots her and kills her.
Yeah.
And he's talking about the smile because he goes to coddle her as she's dying. She smiles at him and then
says, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And he said, I want to understand what that means. I think it's painfully obvious. And I think Noriko does too, because she says it. She says she was happy that she found someone that she could trust that much, that loved her that much, that would only kill her as a result of a reflex or,
Well, and I also think she didn't want to live with having killed him.
That too. Yes, absolutely.
She loved him too much to say goodbye. And I also love the line that kicks off this backstory is Kawada saying, I wasn't going to say anything, but I guess I want you to know.
Yeah.
And that's when he shows them the photo of Keiko and it's like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And I also love the line talking about the previous Battle Royale saying, as time ran out, something changed.
Yeah.
And it changes for him again, but it's for the better this time. That's just such an interesting phrase.
It's also just badass because we get this fucking flashback and we cut back to Kawada and he's smoking a cigarette, just cool. Staring off into the middle distance. He's a cool motherfucker.
Guy smoking is cool.
Again, that's what this season is telling us. Smoking, fucking cool.
Really two years ago was the season of scamps. I think this is the season of smoker.
Cool fucking smokers, man. And then, I do like that that's a great parallel to Nanahara and Shuya, or Nanahara and Noriko, because he makes the same claim as I will protect you. And I think Noriko falls in love with him at the end of this thing.
Well, and we glossed over, they took a photo together at the beginning of the movie because she has a crush on him. And you can see she immediately gets why Keiko smiled at Kawada.
Yeah.
She says, look at the smile in this picture. She's trying. She wants you to know how she feels. She wants you to know that she loves you. And you can see her sort of sneaking glances at Shuya as if to say, you get it? I love you. Come
wink,
on.
Wink.
And it's a really lovely moment. And then that brief conversation. I love movies where the stakes are like this and then the power of love is a motivator, right?
This Interstellar, of course, great.
What Ashley makes fun of me about this, but she wasn't crazy about Interstellar, and she's like, what is it about it that spoke to you? And I said, it is a movie about how love is more powerful than space.
Yeah, that physics.
Love transcends time, and I'm a sucker for it every fucking time. And the fact that this story and the conversation with Noriko energizes Kawada to be like to finally reveal, you know, I know how to get off this fucking island. So he's like, yeah, I guess we're all gonna live. Let's do this.
Yeah. And so this is where Kuriyama shows up.
Yes.
And I know it doesn't make any sense. I love that he just seemingly has infinite bullets.
Oh,
it's so funny that he comes in just spraying at every situation possible.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but if you survive long enough being shot at by this psychopath, maybe don't start laughing and shouting about your bulletproof vest when he seemingly leaves.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when your face is clearly not covered by it.
I know. That's the thing about Kuriyama too, is like he takes his bulletproof vest later on, and when you get shot in the vest,
yeah,
you still feel it.
It still hurts like a motherfucker, right?
It still leaves welts and bruises and stuff, and also
it can knock you out, knock your breath out.
I feel like if you get shot into one, it's kind of like if like a car seat in an accident, like you got to replace it,
yeah,
like right away, like even if it's not visibly damaged. But he gets shot so many times in this vest later on. No one aims for his fucking face.
No.
Like everyone shoots him dead center. I don't know. Again, minor gripes, but it is funny that happens.
And this is where we get what JT referred to as the love grenade.
The love grenade, yeah.
That's the best typo.
It was a good typo.
Like that's such a fortunate typo.
Kuriyama's like blood-covered hands on the windows. This is a horror scene, and you know none of that's his blood.
That's what I mean by the imagery in this movie. It's so simple. It's just he hears that someone is in this clinic, and of course it's Kawada, Nanahara, and Noriko. And he goes to investigate, and he's shifting around outside so no one can keep track of him. And he just places a bloody handprint on that window and slides down, followed by tossing into the window a severed head with a grenade shoved into its mouth.
With the pin pulled.
Look out, man!
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
That's good.
That's good.
It's good. Yeah, and Shuya is just like, hey, asshole, follow me. And
he's got plot armor on for sure. I don't know why Kuriyama doesn't blow this dude away the whole time.
Well, and it took me a second to realize Kuriyama had the bulletproof vest because Shuya puts like 2 bullets in his chest and he just keeps smiling.
I love it.
Oh, it's so upsetting.
He's such a good villain, man. I love it. And then so he gets away. He jumps into the water with Sugimura, and they escape Kuriyama. And then we'll now get into the lighthouse scene. But before that, we cut back to the bomb making squad, which Mimamura has this booklet of how to make a bomb, which is a real booklet made by an opposition party in Japan.
Yeah,
and he knows they're listening, right? He knows that they have a microphone in the necklaces. Yeah. And he even types on his computer. He tells his 2 friends, he goes, go find this stuff, fertilizer, sulfur, all this stuff to make a bomb. And he knows they're listening, but that doesn't stop him from his friends coming back and going, hey, we got all the stuff you asked for, fertilizer and sulfur and all this stuff. And because they clutch the necklace to like muffle the microphone, even then, if you're going to talk about blowing up this whole fucking island, you got to fucking keep it a little bit more contained than that shit.
Can I tell you, I just discovered that Takashi Tsukamoto, who plays Mimura in this movie, is the Japanese dub voice for Maverick in Top Gun.
Holy shit. That's awesome.
Like, how much more alpha can you get, motherfucker?
That's so fucking cool. That's so cool. And it is, speaking of cool, it's cool that basically this class is split in between half people who are willing to fight and half of people who aren't, because now we got to the lighthouse scene, which we talked about a lot.
Oh man, it is this scene is a microcosm of the entire film and all of its themes.
Absolutely.
It's a perfect scene.
Yeah, it's characters that are willing to fight together because we're friends, and then others that say, fuck it, I guess I gotta kill my friends. Like, that is the dichotomy here.
And he remembers Oda's severed head, like as the list is being read off to him. That crash zoom and the scream when he remembers the head laying on the ground is so good. And this is where we get this very violent recap of all the dead kids.
Yeah, the next announcement, Takeshi talks about these other kids that have died since Nanahara was asleep.
Well, and that's the thing is he's missed the announcements,
Right.
and so Yuki is just like listing them off.
Right.
Yeah, she's like, here, I wrote them down.
Yeah. And we saw in the special edition, I don't know if it's in the theatrical, but two girls that claimed they would always be friends together.
Yes.
And they ended up killing each other on the beach, stabbing each other.
Right.
And then the two guys we talked about that got seduced by Mitsuko that she then killed with her sickle.
Right.
Because they're covered in blood and naked. That's a rough way to go, man.
Yeah.
And then, man, Yuki is fucking horny for Nanahara. I gotta tell you one thing.
Like, can she focus? Like, it's so wild. She's like, she fixed him up. She's like covered him in bandages. And then she's like, you're the first guy I've ever touched. And he's like, hey, can we get the fuck out of here? What do we do? Like, he's just like, can we focus for a second? And so she's like, look, Yuko saw you kill that kid with an axe. I know you said it was an accident earlier. Let me go talk to everybody. Some of the girls don't want a guy in here at all, but everything's chill. We're all best friends. So you just stay in here and I'm going to go check on them and bring you some food.
Yeah, they're playing house. They've got one character who's keeping watch. You got another character who's making food, another one that's cleaning.
Yeah.
And like they've made this lighthouse a light home. You're right, JT. It is a full house.
It's a full lighthouse.
They made this lighthouse a light home.
And then, Yuko is not. Yuko does not trust him, so she poisons the food they're making, which, how rude.
This is Tarantino right here. It is how rude. I mean, I also like that, like, as this unfurls so quickly that, we've got these characters that are so bright and chipper. They're all like, I'm making spaghetti. And first of all, I got to say, Japanese spaghetti looks like something. Like there's corn in it and a whole bunch of stuff. But the naivety and the blissful ignorance of the violence that is being oppressed on these kids, it's kind of astounding that these girls have not been in a dead zone as far as we know.
Right.
Have not had anyone come to the lighthouse to try to threaten their fucking their base.
Yeah.
A ton of their friends have died, and they have to know, even subconsciously, they'll be dead soon too if they don't play along. And they're still talking about how cute Nanahara is and their crushes.
They're still in the same clique.
Yeah.
Like, and they're still in their own little bubble. And Yuko comes downstairs Yuki comes downstairs. Yuko has poisoned the food and just announces, we better feed him, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, you're not fooling anyone. And then Yuka eats the poisoned food. And we were talking about the blocking in this scene earlier, but the fact that like there's a conversation happening at the table while Yuko is in the background freaking out because Yuka just ate the poisoned food, and slowly Yuka is starting to show the effects, and then just the scene is punctuated by her vomiting blood.
I don't feel so good.
Someone shouts, could it be food poisoning? And someone else goes, that kills you instantly?
Dude. Okay, so I love how instant this shit is, because one of the things that Hitchcock tried to impress on filmmakers and audiences is if you show two characters sitting at a table and then it suddenly explodes.
Yeah.
That's not tension. That's not suspense.
Right.
If you show two characters sitting at a table and you tilt down to show a bomb under the table and then you watch the scene play out, that's suspense, because you know a bomb is going to go off at some point.
The audience knows that everything is falling apart while the dialogue scene is continuing.
Even while the characters don't.
Yeah.
And so when you see Yuka grasp her mouth and like blood seeping between her fingers, and then she just vomits blood onto this girl's face, that is intense as fuck. And again, this whole scene is Tarantino's career. He owes this whole scene pretty much.
And everyone, it escalates so quickly. Everyone points guns at each other. Everyone accuses everyone else of lying.
Immediately too. Like they were all just so chipper and happy. It was a full house.
They've decided, and honestly, when that girl vomits blood, Yuki is thinking like, whatever happened to predictability?
I know, right? Shubba-da-da-ba-ba, yeah.
You got it, dude.
To go back to our discussion about blocking earlier, the blocking in this scene is a masterclass. But when you see those two girls, because they killed two of the girls right away.
Yes.
And then there's two on the ground in between the chairs of the table.
Yeah.
And the way they're blocked, and they're like screaming at Satomi, who's on the other side, who goes, "I've been shot. It hurts, you assholes. Look.
Yeah.
Look at the blood." And then they start shooting at her some more. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then when she gets shot the first time and she does a little twirl.
Oh, yeah.
Where she goes on the offense and she jumps onto the table. The other two girls lean backwards on their back to shoot her. And it's just a blood fest, dude. Like, this whole scene in a microcosm is, like you said, the themes of the movie. It's also visceral fucking filmmaking. It's upsetting to watch these girls that were just getting along so nicely, like they were playing house, just fucking blow each other away.
Well, and also it leads to Yuko, who poisoned the spaghetti and was afraid of Shuya being the only survivor, and now standing among all four of her dead friends, thinking, like, clearly on her face you can see she's like, it is that easy to accidentally do this, right?
Yeah.
She has to be the one to let Shuya out. She apologizes and runs upstairs, and we don't see her jump. We just see the aftermath.
Yeah, she jumps off the lighthouse and kills herself. But before that, I do like that Satomi sees that she's the only one left. It says, "It wasn't you, right? It couldn't have been you that poisoned us."
Oh, yeah.
She shakes her head no, and then Satomi goes, "I thought I would at least live until tomorrow, the last day." And then Yuki shoots her and says, we all might have been able to escape alive. How stupid we are. And then, that's when Yuko, the girl that poisoned the food, says, "I forgot how much I liked all of them."
Ugh. Yeah.
That's rough, man.
Yeah.
And then, I think this is also in the theatrical cut, but this is when I think, get the flashback of Noriko and Kitano Takeshi.
So it's a dream.
It is a dream.
That then, but what's fascinating about it is that the camera pulls in on Noriko having this dream of sharing a popsicle with Kitano, that both of them have popsicles and they're talking and we can't hear the dialogue. And then we don't see her wake up from the dream. We see Kitano wake up rather. And I just think that's such a fascinating choice. Like, it makes you feel like, are they sharing a dream? Is this meant to show us the connection and ideals that they have? But he's woken up getting a phone call from his daughter, who fucking hates his bones.
Oh man, yeah, she fucking hates him. And I if you haven't seen the sequel, I implore you to seek it out. It is not the same movie,
right?
But you do get a lot more about this backstory in particular about his daughter.
You do, yes, yeah.
And like I said before, I always thought this scene and this relationship that they have was very inappropriate, very sexual. But then I after watching the special edition, after watching the sequel, it is much more of like just a guy that is just upset about the way his relationship with his daughter is going and is latching onto this girl.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of reads of it that he was sort of grooming her, and I don't get that at all. I get that this is a guy who used to have ideals that have been completely disillusioned by both the system that he has to work in and his own crumbling home life, and seeing somebody that he wants to succeed and he wants to see her have the best life she can. And it all just kind of gets perverted by the system that he has to work within.
Yeah.
It's such a, but again, the brilliance of Takeshi's performance and the screenplay is that it allows you to sort of project whatever motivation you want onto him. He's as mysterious to the audience as he is to the students.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if you are on the phone with your daughter and she says, "I could smell your stinking breath through the phone,"
you might be a redneck.
You might be. I don't know. You might want to check yourself out, get yourself tested for that. But we get also the flashback of Nanahara's dad and how much he sucks.
Telling his kid, you can order whatever you want. You're about to go into 7th grade tomorrow, but also not
at this restaurant.
He's He's just been using the restaurant as a place to get free water while he fills out resumes and job applications. And he's getting more and more frantic.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. This actor that plays his dad really gives a good representation of just an asshole in a restaurant.
But also of a guy who is on his very last, the very end of his rope. I also find it interesting that they've put Shuya in like larger clothing. Like they make
like
it
hand me down.
Yeah, they really sell that this is like he's younger here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's really subtle.
Yeah, and I wanted to do a shout out to a YouTube channel that I watched a video about the history of this movie and the source material and everything. I'm gonna look it up right now. But they talked about how this character represents like the end of the economic boom.
Totally. And
how that's why this character represents someone that's on their last leg. They probably got laid off, honestly. It was Cinema Nippon, Nippon, that did a really great analysis of both of these two movies that I highly recommend you checking out. Why do you think Mitsuko is afraid of Kitano, of Takeshi? Because she's about to shoot Noriko because she finds her out in the woods.
Yeah.
And then she sees him and runs.
I mean, I would assume that it's because she knows he has the bomb collar control and that this guy just like he can end her in a second.
I agree, but the way her eyes light up when she sees him, I feel like it's something more than that.
Interesting.
I don't know if the novel goes into this. I don't know if it's, created for this movie.
Yeah.
I feel that she gets a fear out of adult men in general because of the backstory we get in the special edition.
That's a really great read.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that would make sense to me. Absolutely. I mean, this is... We're getting close to that anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that, like, it's in the rain.
Yeah.
Mitsuko finds Noriko, goes to shoot her, and then she sees something. Noriko turns around, sees Takeshi there, and he just goes, hey.
Yeah.
That little hey, it's great.
He's so casual about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is, we also get that wild dream that Shuya has where he sees Nobu's corpse basically in the basketball court.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they did this, but the basketball bouncing higher and higher of its own accord.
Yeah,
like it's heading.
It's reversed. It's great dream logic.
Oh,
but
it's
reversed.
That makes absolute sense. I don't know why that didn't, because it doesn't look like it in the shot.
Well, no, but you can see when Nobu catches it.
Yeah.
It's him throwing it, and then they just had Nanahara's actor turn in reverse.
With the amount of Twin Peaks I've watched, the fact that I didn't clock that's a backward shot is fucking ridiculous.
It's good. It's good though. It's good dream logic.
It's really well done. Yeah.
And then this is where Sugimura gets shot.
Yes.
By his crush.
Kayoko,
you're right.
She's like, you've never even talked to me. What am I supposed to do with you telling me you love me?
Yeah, and then she gets shot to death by Mitsuko.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where we do get Mitsuko's backstory in the special edition.
Yes.
So as tactfully as I can describe what happens here.
Right.
She's about 5 or 6 years old in this backstory, I would say.
Yeah.
She comes home to her mother passed out drunk and a guy that she's never seemingly met smiling and is very uncomfortable with her.
The mom who has a fistful of money.
Yeah.
This guy is clearly like a John that she's slept with.
Yeah.
And she's telling Mitsuko, I don't want you to be like me, like when you grow up.
Or what I took it as is she sold her daughter to this guy.
Oh, in the if I recall correctly, in the book, it's she's like prostituting herself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I took it as like I've sold, not even like like I'm giving you my daughter.
No,
I've
I know.
sold my daughter's availability.
It's time.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. That's horrifying to even consider. But it's wild because when I watched this movie when I was younger, I just took it as he's like a stepdad or a boyfriend or something. Like I didn't pick up on the visual cues of the money and her being out of it. And yeah, this scene is haunting.
So he tells her little 5-6-year-old Mitsuko, He has this like Barbie doll.
Yeah.
And he says, look, we're going to play together.
This doll is also called Mitsuko.
Yes. And he takes all the clothes off the doll and says, see, now it's time for you to take your clothes off too.
He takes the clothes and the head off of the doll, which is even scarier. Yeah.
And then Mitsuko pushes him down the stairs and he seemingly dies from breaking his neck.
Yeah.
So I feel like you need this backstory to really round out this character.
Right.
To separate her from Kuriyama as just being a fucking psycho for being a psycho. You know what I mean?
Right. She's damaged and she can't relate to other kids, even the other ones who have had hard lives. Like she can't. And also that line from her mother, you know, don't grow up to be like me. That's another loaded line that just tells us the entire movie's theme. And then it comes back to what Mitsuko has learned from her experiences, which is no one is going to save you.
Yeah. I feel like she maybe would have been one of the freedom fighters in the second movie had she survived. And then, this is where Kuriyama shows up, and the fight between them two is great.
It's excellent, yeah.
The way they filmed Kuriyama finally killing Mitsuko is so fucking good because it's like a video game. It's first person, but you see Kuriyama holding the gun out like it's like a video game.
Yeah.
Like, it's really brilliant, and they repeat that shot in the second movie, too. I thought was pretty interesting. But, he finally puts Mitsuko down. And she says, which I think is one of those inner monologue shots, I just didn't want to be a loser anymore.
Yeah.
It's a rough fucking life, man, for Mitsuko.
We come back to in the Requiem where she's alone at the basketball game and walking out alone while everyone else is cheering. She's never felt like a part of anything.
But you see her want to be involved.
Yeah.
Because you see her want to cheer about the basketball game.
Yeah, she just has no idea how to.
Yes, she doesn't know how to integrate herself into it.
But she's gotten very good at telling people what they want to hear when she has to.
She knows how to manipulate these kids 100%. She does the same thing with Shimuzu earlier with the tampon thing. She says, why do you guys always gang up on me? She starts crying, but she knows that she killed those kids.
Yeah.
So she's a fantastic character. I love Mitsuko. And then this is where Mimura hacks the network.
Yeah.
And everyone starts freaking out except Takeshi, who knows you just got to reboot the thing.
It makes me laugh so hard because all of these soldiers are just like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? They're all scrambling over the computers. And Kitano sits up from his little couch, sighs, and then walks over and cuts the power. And he's just like, reset it.
And so that kills everyone's necklace, the microphone, the ability to explode it.
Yeah.
The tracking system, the dead zones. It kills pretty much everything. But Mimura and his ragtag group of guys are going to go use this bomb that they've made to blow up the school where all the soldiers are.
Yeah.
And before they can do that, Kuriyama shows up, guns the two friends down, and goes to shoot Mimura, who, even as he's being shot, ignites the bomb and blows them up, killing himself and blinding Kuriyama.
One of my favorite lines in the movie is when Kuriyama shoots Ijima, and he's laying on the ground, he's bleeding out in Mimura's arms, and he starts cackling and he says, when we escape, it'll all be together.
Yeah, really good.
It's haunting, but he now it takes on a whole new meaning. And I mean, the first of many times in the third act of this movie when a character just decides we're all going to hell together. Mimura blows up the building and Kuriyama comes out of the flames and he just, that shot of him sort of tilting his head back is the hardest fucking shot in the movie.
We haven't even talked about it, but the score in this movie that accompanies that is like this guttural choir, and he's the whole field's on fire. He's in a daze. He's just kind of stumbling around, and this is when Kawada and Noriko and Nanahara show up. Kawada tells the two of them stay here. He walks onto the field, cocks his shotgun, and as he does, Kuriyama whips around. You see that he's blind. You see that he's crying blood.
Yeah.
And he notices the sound. He's like Daredevil, basically. And then he just starts firing wildly at where he thinks Kawada is. Who Kawada then drops down on the ground, rolls around like he's a fireman trying to put out a fire.
Yeah.
They're just shooting each other back and forth. And the only thing I don't find realistic about this whole thing is he manages to shoot Kiriyama's collar, which then explodes, but he's using a shotgun.
I know, it's a very careful shot, right?
Kiriyama's whole face should have exploded if that's the case, but he gets the one up on him, and Kuriyama is finally dead.
You want to know something wild? I realized I don't know why I didn't catch this before, but speaking of Tarantino uses some of Masamichi Amano's music for Django Unchained.
Yeah.
Which is like, I can't remember when it happens, but I'm looking at it right now on his filmography. This guy fucking rules.
That score is incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Kiriyama is dead. I guess we never even talked about it, but Kiriyama volunteered.
Yes.
I don't know if we did talk about this, but he volunteered for this game. And Kawada says, we had one of those too in my game. That's a bold fucking thing for a kid to do, man.
Yeah, because he does it for the love of the game. Can I read you a line from Masamichi Amano's Wikipedia page?
Of course.
His orchestral works include the musical scores of Battle Royale, Giant Robo, and Stratos 4. The films and TV series featuring his music are the genres action, science fiction, hentai, and horror.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Someday the Fever the Rage's Wikipedia page is going to say the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
I hope you did not masturbate today.
Yeah, that's right. That's fucking right. Okay, so now the only three that are left are Kawada, Nanahara, and Noriko.
Yeah.
Kawada, remember, has told them there's a way off this island. I'll tell you when the time comes.
Yeah. They have this conversation about, like, what are you going to do after this, right? And they're just like, well, none of us have ever trusted adults, but it makes sense to keep fighting. Shuya's like, I'll keep fighting even though I don't know how to become a real adult.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a reminder that, like, we've done this to kids. Like, this is... The stakes here are that none of them even think they're gonna grow up.
And he says he's never really trusted adults before, and he doesn't have a reason to now, which makes sense because they say his mom just ran away.
Yeah,
and then his dad. We saw how his dad was, so why would he trust adults?
Yeah, he couldn't cope, right?
And it really solidifies the harsh barrier there is between kids and adults in this world. Like, he's only a few years away from being an adult himself, but that's how big the divide is.
Right.
Like, it's like Children of the Corn, like when they become an adults, they just kill you like right away. Like, that's kind of what the world is like in this movie. But Kawada reveals his plan to escape that he tells Nanahara and Noriko about is, I'm going to kill you two. Like, I befriended you guys so that I could kill you at the end.
And he knows Kitano's listening through the microphones.
Right. Even though they technically should be off because of the hack earlier.
Right. Well, if they've been rebooted, then I guess it's all...
So this is where I admit that I'm dumb watching this movie.
My confusion is... We come to learn that Kawada figured out months ago how to hack the collars, right?
Yes.
This hack seems to not involve computers in any way.
So for anyone that may have seen this movie and is confused, because I certainly was, the hack that happens in the movie where the collars get shut down, the GPS gets shut down, all that is not from Miramura doing that on his laptop.
Right.
Seemingly, Kawada did that months before. We don't ever see him with a computer. We don't ever see him near any kind of electronic equipment, really.
Right.
But he shuts it all down. And so he pretends to kill Nanahara and Noriko right here.
Right.
Yeah, that was his plan, was to lure these two in, kill them or seemingly kill them at the end.
Yeah.
We see him shoot, quote unquote, Nanahara and Noriko.
Right.
The soldiers hear the gunshots and conclude, okay, well, that must mean that Kawada's the winner.
And what's interesting is the soldiers are like, let's confirm the kills. And Kitano says, no, fuck it. Like, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. I believe it.
Game over. Mission accomplished.
All of you leave.
Yes. The soldiers get up and leave. And I also thought it was funny because they show a bunch of soldiers getting to a vehicle. And I'm like, where the fuck are they going? It's on an island.
They're driving into the water.
But Kitano starts working out.
I love this.
Like outside. It's so funny.
Listening to an official Battle Royale workout playlist, essentially.
And Kawada shows up as the last one alive. They go inside. Beat Takeshi goes, I know it was you that hacked the system. He goes, that's cheating.
Cheating is no good.
Yes. And then right at that moment, as he pulls out a gun, and right as he's about to shoot Kawada, Nanahara and Noriko show back up. And Takeshi goes, he reveals this painting that he's made of all the kids dead except for her, and said, I hope that you would be the one to survive.
And he shows them the painting like it explains everything.
Anything,
like this is his manifesto, and they're still just sort of like, hey man, you seem fucking crazy. Like that's sort of their reaction.
I don't know how you as Noriko respond to that. You gotta be like, I don't know.
because it's not only has he drawn all the and it is a painting, but it is like a child, like a cartoonish painting of all these dead bodies. And Noriko in the painting has like a golden aura around her, like she's the Virgin Mary.
Yes.
Like he venerates her.
Fucking thing sucks.
By the way, have we gotten to the sound cue that you told JT about before the...
Oh, yeah, no, that was the Sting.
Oh,
that was
fantastic. Hell yeah.
Every time Takeshi's mentioned, we should just play that. But, they have this moment where he goes to move on Kawada.
Yeah.
Shuya shoots him, and then it's revealed that the gun that Takeshi has is a water pistol.
Right.
He goes and shoots at Shuya some more. Shuya then blasts him away for good.
Yeah.
He's dead on the ground. And then as they're reacting to the fact that guy is now dead, his cell phone rings, and you see... This is amazing.
He gets up, answers the phone, and he tells his kid, I'm not coming home. And she clearly like mouths off to him. So he throws the phone across the room and then pulls a real gun out of his back pocket and shoots the phone, proving that he did have a weapon that could have saved his own life. That this was clearly a suicide thing for him.
It's incredible because like there's a long time between when he finally gets shot down by Shuya. He's dead on the ground. You see him still breathing.
Yeah.
I noticed that this time.
Yes.
And then there's a long moment there. The phone rings. He casually gets up.
He does. He basically goes, huh?
Yeah. He does the Michael Myers sit up basically.
He does.
Like, and then, they're in shock that he's still alive. He walks over, he sits down casually. He puts his arms up on the back of the couch. He goes, hey, what's up?
He does.
Yeah.
He's like Ed O'Neill and Married with Children.
I just love that, like, that's out of the realm of the reality of the movie, but it still plays perfectly. Like, nothing has to be exact.
Well, and it all comes down to how nonchalant his performance is, because then he eats a couple more cookies and just says like, these are damn good cookies. And then he doesn't fall back. He just sort of tilts his head back and he's dead. Like see, and to his credit, you see the life leave his face. And it's so subtle. It's perfectly done. You're right. It is an over the top sort of comedic beat.
A beat Takeshi?
It's a fuck.
You want right into it.
You know what? If you keep making these kind of puns, we're going to have a beef Takeshi.
Oh, man. And so, the three of them get on a boat, Kawada, Nanahara, and Noriko.
Yeah.
And they said, we're going to go back to the mainland. Kawada is injured from being shot by Kuriyama earlier.
Right.
He says, I finally figured out what the smile meant from Keiko.
Yeah.
And then he dies on the boat, leaving just Nanahara and Noriko. They get back to the mainland. And the irony of this all is that they were forced to play a game of murder, and then they're wanted for murder.
That title card made me so angry. The hypocrisy of it. Like, no, you didn't kill in the way that we sanctioned.
Which also it like implies, like, does that mean that anyone that wins Battle Royale, it's considered a murderer and therefore tried as a murderer?
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's the way that they keep them within the system, right? Because like the in the book, they're, they tell everybody we're doing this to like make our army stronger.
Yeah. And then, we get some VO from Nanahara saying, like, I don't know what's next, but we're just going to run.
Yeah.
And we end on a freeze frame of him and Noriko in disguise, just running through a crowd of people.
Oh,
it's a great ending.
That title card that just says run is so good. And he says, like, even if we have to fight, like, it'll never be an easy choice.
Yeah.
You know, he said, like, even at this point, Shuya is not interested in killing people. He's just interested in finding a way to make the killing stop.
Yeah.
And this leads us into our requiems, our little epilogues.
Yeah, if you have the special edition, you get some requiems. We get the first one is the basketball game, just extended out a bit more. This is where we get the Mitsuko stuff that we talked about earlier. The second one is just the Nobu dream scene again.
Yes.
And the third one is, I feel like, the most important one. Because earlier in the movie, we saw this dream that Noriko had about her and Kitano together.
Yeah.
But it turns out this was a real conversation they had after he was stabbed by Nobu, where he says, you know, like, they're having popsicles on the riverbed. And he says, like, you know, you're the only one basically that is worth a damn in that class.
He also says that he misses being able to smack. He's like, I used to be able to smack the kids around, but now, you know, they frown on that.
Yeah,
so
that's a Gen X statement right there. I'll tell you that.
Right. Yeah.
But I do like that. There's this moment between them where he's like, oh, the rest of the kids in the class are ugly, lumpy potatoes. And he goes, I think the kids in my class think it's boring. Is my class as boring? She goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, how dare you? It's a very sweet moment.
It is.
And then she reveals to him, you know, when you got stabbed by Nobu, I kept that knife and I cherished it.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't know why I still have it, but I'm glad I do.
And then he ends the movie with the final line, which I think is incredible. He says, in this moment, what should an adult say to a kid?
Oh, right.
That's damning, because I feel like at this point, he's probably already signed up to lead the Battle Royale program, and he may even know already that this class is going to be chosen.
She's going to be selected. Yeah.
So you see the blood kind of drain from his face of like, she said, I cherish this weapon that hurt you. And what do I say to you in this moment, especially in this world?
How am I supposed to teach you to be better when this is how we're handling it? Like, I know what kind of world we live in.
We've said it 1,000 times already. This movie's a fucking masterpiece.
Right. It also speaks to the real world violence that this movie was reacting to, right? Like, what do you say to your child when school shootings are a common reality?
Yeah.
What do you say? Yeah. What do you say to your kid when you're just like, well, dad killed himself because he can't afford to put food on the table?
It's 24 years later, and like when, you know, Scarlett was in a lockdown in her school this week, and we didn't know why, and they won't tell us why.
God.
And we're like, well, why is this just what we accept as reality? We don't have to.
Right.
It doesn't have to be, but like it's wild that this movie that is set in this dystopian totalitarian world is such a reflection on the real world that we live in. And it wasn't even that crazy of a world then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get to Prop Cop before I fucking like go crazy thinking about this stuff. So, for those who are new to the show, Prop Cop is where Nathan and I, and JT to an extent, are going to look at all of the physical items in Battle Royale, and we're going to take one for ourselves, maybe as a last line of defense between each other, maybe just as like a relic. I'm gonna take, and I know it's morbid, but I'm gonna take the painting just because I feel like it is a reflection of this movie that is actually useful. I could put that up on a frame on a wall, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a crazy one for sure.
What are you gonna take?
So I couldn't get a good look at what he was reading, but Nobu has a pretty fantastic manga collection.
Oh my god, all those books that he had up there? Yeah.
And I can't tell for sure, but it looked like maybe volumes of Great Teacher Onizuka, which is a very funny thing that he would have.
Okay.
That was going to be my choice.
Okay. JT, anything you're interested in?
The scythe.
The sickle.
The sickle.
Oh, yeah. Good choice.
Yeah.
It's a good weapon.
I'm really horrible with the names, but she had that throughout almost like half the movie, right?
Yeah. She used that more often than I think she used the gun, which I thought was very telling of her character.
Yes.
Well, what about bit part? Let's talk about bit parts.
Let's do it.
It's a flamethrower.
Speaking of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there
That's
you go.
good. Yeah.
I think I gotta be the soldier that tries to eat some of Noriko's cookies and then Takeshi snatches them away.
That's such a good bit. He tries to take the cookies, Takeshi pulls them away, and then he tries to check the map Takeshi has, and he pulls that away, and then the guy just kind of sits there for a second and is like, okay, and then he gets up and leaves, and then Takeshi gets up without looking at the map or eating a cookie. Like, it's so petty, it's so funny. Yeah, great bit.
Who are you gonna take?
I had two options. There's when the big hack happens, when the soldiers are all freaking out. There's one guy who like falls over and he kicks his legs up in the air. It's a very like slapsticky kind of reaction.
Yeah.
But I think the one I'd want is the bus driver from the beginning.
Yeah.
He just kind of gives that knowing nod.
Yeah.
It's an eerie moment.
Yeah. Well, do we want to talk about silver linings? Do we want to go ahead and get into it now?
Let's do it.
All right. So I think, at least to me, the silver lining of this movie is that Kawada finally solved the riddle of Keiko's smile.
I love that. Yeah.
What do you got?
Mine is that Shuya and Noriko are not alone.
Yeah.
They don't really have a plan yet, but they're alive. And they're going to figure out what's next together.
I like that sentiment. And I also finally realized while watching the sequel last night, the girl at the beginning of this movie that beat the Battle Royale for hers is in that movie as a freedom fighter.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I got to rewatch that one.
I'm telling you, man, it is not 27% worthy on Rotten Tomatoes. It's at least 70s, at least.
Right on.
It fucking rules.
Yeah, I'm looking through the cast. I didn't remember Sonny Chiba being in Battle Royale 2. Holy cow. Yeah, I don't think I knew who he was when I originally saw it. Now, yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out.
It definitely has some campy bits.
Yeah,
but it's a good time.
Cool.
Well, let's talk about a movie that maybe, if you're watching Battle Royale and you're feeling kind of bummed by the ending of it, what's a movie people should watch afterwards? We'll talk about our double feature, aka our pick me up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, first of all, you should watch all of MXC.
Yes.
Also, if you're looking for more specifically Japanese content, there's a movie that came out last year, or it may have even been this year. I'm not 100% sure. It's a documentary, and it is called The Contestant. Have you seen this thing?
No, I don't even know about it.
Dude, this is wild.
Okay.
This is a documentary about a guy that was somewhat involuntarily a part of a game show.
Yeah, this shit's so fucked up, dude.
You've seen it, right, JT?
Well, yeah, no, I watched it.
Oh, so this guy goes in. He's a teenager too. He might even be a little bit older than a teenager, but he's a young guy.
I have heard of this. I just Googled it. Yeah. I have not watched it because I feel like it would really stress me out.
It's fucking nuts. This guy goes onto this show. He doesn't know it's a part of a game show theoretically.
Yeah.
He goes in and they're basically like, we're going to keep you in this apartment by yourself. You have naked. You have no connection to the outside world, except you get to fill out contests, sweepstakes. And that's how you get your food. That's how you get clothes, toys, anything. And this guy is there. Not only does he survive, I think it's like 3 months. He then gets tricked into doing the same thing in North Korea. Or maybe it's South Korea. I can't remember. But
it's South Korea.
South Korea. And then they bring him back to Japan.
Oh.
And it's just, the whole thing is, that's not even the most fucked up part. The most fucked up part is it's all televised without his acknowledgement. And they do nothing about it after they reveal to him that he was a part of this game show.
Holy shit.
It sounds like a bummer, but it is so fucking... Like, it's such a good connection to Battle Royale in terms of like the totalitarian state of things. But it's a crazy endeavor.
But that was like, it was like at the height of like a web series, like being able to stream it online. And like all of a sudden, like millions of people started like watching it. So when the contest was originally supposed to end, they're like, all right, run it back.
Yeah, it's too good to end. We got to keep doing it.
We're going to do it in Korea.
Well, it sounds like I watched this South Korean show earlier this year called The 8 Show that was about these people who were put in a 8-story building and are basically like they make money over time, but it's structured so that like certain people are richer than others.
Sure.
Like it sounds really similar, like except one guy just
being completely alone.
That's
for months.
And this is real. This is really
a real
happened.
thing.
fucking crazy.
It's a crazy watch, dude. I highly recommend it. This
Okay.
guy's spirit, you watch him gradually, his spirit just break.
Dude,
Like he is like
when they tricked him that last time,
oh,
and then like the walls fell down.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
gonna say it in case he watches it. But
Yeah, I will. I'll check it out for sure.
when they trick him to go to South Korea and do it all again. It is so fucking heartbreaking. This guy is like maybe the most publicly shamed person to have ever existed.
Oh my God.
And yeah, he's still like the end of it. It is a nice wrap up to the story at the end. I won't spoil it, but like this guy went on to at least have like, you know, at least a positive outlook on things.
Gotcha.
So I highly recommend it. I think it's on Hulu. Anyway, I'm going to ask two things specific to this movie.
Yeah.
Number one, what do you think is the best weapon in the movie in terms of like if you were put in this situation, what do you think would be the most advantageous to you?
Uh-huh.
And second, it's not technically a horror movie, but what do you think is the best kill of the movie? So
Before we get there, can I do a double feature?
oh my God, yes, please.
Yeah, can you
Sorry,
do one?
I'm just such in a rush this season. Sorry, we're running long on this episode. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. I'll make it quick. Mine I mentioned earlier. I would recommend 2003's Zatoichi, directed by, written by, and starring Beat Takeshi
Hell yeah.
as the blind swordsman. It's a really fun, well choreographed samurai film.
Okay.
I love it. It made me a fan of samurai films.
Right
So
on.
like I think when it came out. So it's a big one for me.
Cool. All right. Well, I can tell you my answers to my questions while you think of yours.
Yeah.
But I think if we're going based off the movie, the Uzi with unlimited bullets is clearly the
Sure,
winner.
the magic Uzi from the Resident Evil merchant.
Yeah. But if we're going with the reality of the situation, like I said, I think Sugimura's tracking device is the smartest weapon that you would need.
Yeah.
You could literally just pick up the excess weapons that other people leave behind and finish off the last person. But the best kill of the movie to me, I wrote so many different options down, but I think the one that sticks with me the most is Yuka's death, the poisoning.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because it's the only one in the movie. I don't know if you guys noticed this, and maybe I'm wrong. It's the only one in the movie I noticed didn't have a death card associated with it. You know, when like, a bunch of students get killed off in succession, they say like girl number 3, boy number 12 in their names. I didn't see hers listed. And maybe that's just the subtitles not being accurate.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I thought that was weird.
maybe she lived.
Maybe she did.
What if she did? Yeah. Battle Royale 3. Let's do it.
I mean, that's Dead Meat's rules.
Right.
Get a kill graphic.
I love the I think my favorite weapon would be the crossbow, or not the crossbow, but the bow and arrow. It seems like there was a decent amount of ammunition there that I could hang on to.
Yeah.
And I could, depending on how close the kill was, I could reuse some arrows.
Yeah.
I mean, my brain wants to say sawed-off shotgun, but like what? That's 2 shots maybe, and then you're done.
He seemed to have a couple.
He did. And then I think the kill that just makes me stoked is when Kawada shoots the other transfer student in the throat.
Kuriyama,
when Kuriyama's, when he gets blown up. I mean, that whole sequence I think is just so intense. That, and I like Takeshi's drawn out death scene.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. No, Kiriyama's death is fucking raw. That's for sure. JT, you got any insight on this?
Favorite death in the movie, I think, would be the knife throw in the classroom at the beginning.
Yeah,
it
sets the stakes.
Yeah, it just hits fast forward for this entire movie, and it doesn't it's going.
Absolutely.
We literally listed the 3 I wrote down.
Hell yeah.
That knife into her forehead, it does kick things off and gets intense, and it doesn't slow down from there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know the answer to this already, but I gotta ask, do we recommend this movie? I think the answer is a emphatic yes.
No.
Hell yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I think The Hunger Games can sit and spin as far as I'm concerned. This movie is nearly a quarter of a century old, and it still feels as relevant today as it did back then.
Yeah.
And somehow things have only gotten worse. We didn't learn any more lessons.
No.
So it's a pivotal movie in Japanese culture. It's a pivotal movie in any kind of pop culture, I feel like, that you see today. Almost every director worth their salt is inspired by this thing.
And it's one of those movies that, like, when taken just at face value, which I don't know how you can, but when we saw it when we were younger, right? We're just like, this is a dark, fucked up, cool action movie, right?
No.
And then I think it's a movie that's worth revisiting because it's so thematically rich and the performances are so strong. And there's just enough that's left to the imagination that you're able to sort of project things onto it as well. I think it is a masterpiece. I would 1000% recommend this one.
Yeah. All right. Is there any final thoughts on Battle Royale before we get out of here for the week and the year?
Yeah, I think just Happy New Year. Don't kill each other and be good, everybody.
Yeah. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, leave feedback wherever you're listening to us right now. You can follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. We're on Reddit at reddit.com/r/silverliningsplaylist. You can check out our website at tslppodcast.com. You can also email us at the silverliningsplaylist@gmail.com. If you have a bit part suggestion, you can get in touch with us either by email or on our contact us form on our website and let us know the name of the movie and the line that you want us to pull.
Yeah.
And lastly, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/silverliningsplaylist, where you get a bunch of bonus material to the show as well as episodes early whenever we can release them.
Yeah.
And I think the last bit of business to do for this episode and for the year is I got to give you guys a clue for what we're going to be talking about next week. So next week is, because the way the schedule lined up this time, it's also my pick.
Yeah.
And there's a very specific movie we're doing on a very specific date.
Oh, boy.
And so my clue is, not since American Pie has a movie made me look at that dessert the same way again.
Boy.
I don't think you've seen this movie, Nathan?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. I know a lot about it, but I have not a ton about it.
Okay.
But yeah.
I wanted you guys to go into this movie with no knowledge whatsoever, because that's how I went into it, and that's
interesting.
How I encourage everyone who is potentially curious about it to go into it. But we'll talk about that on January 6th.
Hey!
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for listening to us in 2024, and we hope you return for 2025. And
I hope we all return in 2025.
I hope so. I just gotta say, lastly, Nathan, JT, you both look really cool.
Thank you.
Just want to say that.
Aw, shucks.
And as always, I just didn't want to be a loser anymore.
I love my wife next year too.
This year and next year. Yeah.
I'm getting married next year. Hell yeah, brother. Oh boy. Good movie.
And what do we always say? Don't get eliminated!
Hello, YouTube. If you've made it this far, thanks. Could you do us one more favor? Could you hit those like and subscribe buttons? Maybe leave us a comment on what you think of the show. We'd really appreciate it. Join us again next week for an all-new episode. Bye.